And welcome to the Wrestling Match of the Year podcast. I am your host, JD of the Red Leaf Retrocast, joined here from my usual host, Big Egg Joshi. It's Kay.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I played the Team Boku music to start off this amazing podcast.
Best music. That should be our anthem for this podcast.
It is definitely the anthem today because we got all of the matches of the year to go through here, and the way this is going to be formatted, a little different this year, considering that we already did Wrestlers of the Year through our wrestler rankings from Red Leaf Retrocast, the conglomerated completed affair found over on the Patreon, Red Leaf Retrocast, $5 tier. Big special for everyone that's followed along. And if you don't want to join the podcast's Patreon, then you can go to redleafretrocast.blogspot.com to see the table for yourself of the top 20. There's a bunch of write-ups through, I believe I started doing the write-ups in June of 2020, so you can kind of see the progression, some thoughts going forward. Really neat stuff. So anyways, we will be joined by Parker from Wrestling Observer Figure 4 Wrestling Online later, as all three of us, Kay, are going to break down our choice top 10 matches of the year with a deep conversation over each one, what we think. That's a big chunk of the podcast. But before that, we got the main promotions we covered throughout 2020 on the Red Leaf Retrocast. AEW Top 10, DDT Top 10, New Japan Pro Wrestling Top 10, Dragon Gate, Stardom, and Ice Ribbon. And then I also put together a miscellaneous top 20. So these are top matches or fun matches or the best from promotions that aren't in the regular rotation that are covered on each and every episode. So that comes out to 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 matches in total. The other caveat is, and I've done this for since the start, is if there's a feud, which means multiple matches involving the same people, same opponents situation, that counts as one match. It kind of gives it a little edge. You are in a rivalry / feud, if you will. So, for example, Utami and Momo met twice this year. Once in the 5-star and once in the world title picture at Osaka Dream. So both of those count as kind of one match in total. Really, it's a fun way. It gives you a different perspective on the matches and what the wrestlers did through the year. And it also creates extra space so you're not putting like 3 of the same people in a top 10. Make sense to you, Kay?
Just a bit. I mean, I don't know how much I would do with the sort of 5-star and the Osaka show. I think it's more you can do that with like the Konami Julia and the Tam Julia stuff, since those two are sort of long-spanning story feuds.
But they're part of the story nonetheless.
Right?
Yeah. So that's the idea there. All right. So I'm going to play this sick-ass Bobby Guns music, which I haven't heard in forever. To start off with the miscellaneous top 20. Here we go. Very sad that Europe is basically closed all of 2020, but nonetheless, Kay, this is my bread and butter, the miscellaneous top 20. This is kind of a growing list throughout the year. So I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way to the top and chime in, because I know you've seen some of these, Mr. K.
Mr. K. I have seen some of these, yes.
Yes. Is your butt ready?
As ready as it's going to be.
All right. Back it up and present, because we're starting off with Chris Brooks versus Miyako Matsumoto from Gake no Fuchi Hardcore on January 4th. This match was like an hour long of pure Miyako nonsense. I had a blast watching it. It is something I recommend to just get trash drunk to and have a good time.
Yeah, I also watched this match. However, I remember very little because I was in a fever haze. I swear to God, I watched this match. I just remember some of the crazy stuff. That's it.
Number 19 is Risa Sera, Iron Woman hardcore match, her 60-minute match from the Risa Sera Produce Show.
Sarah is a crazy, crazy woman, and she does not like her body.
18 is Miyuki Takase versus Akane Fujita, the Actress Girls joint show with Ice Ribbon from November 16th.
Yeah, the one for the Actress Girls title belt. Yeah, no, it was a very good match. Both of them hit each other very hard. And there's another Actress Girls title match that Takase had that I think you don't have on the list that I have on my list.
Ooh, well, after actually, if you don't see it there, how about you mention it right now?
So it would be the Nagasa Nozaki versus Miyuki Takase match from the March 5th, 2020 show for the Actress Girls title belt. It happened, I believe, not too long after they had done a show prior on Wave, the Wave show for the Wave belt that Nozaki had at the time. It was very good. I still am very high on that match. I think you haven't seen it yet, have you?
I did not see that match.
I think I've mentioned it a few times, but I need to show you that match. It is very good. I quite enjoyed it. I've never really been super high on Nozaki, but the fire and kind of the sort of aura she had in that match was very different than what I had seen from her prior. And obviously Takase is great. They hit each other very, very hard. Boots and forearms.
Sometimes matches just slip through the cracks, much like how this podcast has gone through the years, just phases in and out of certain promotions and finding other things and getting tracked with more wrestlers. So anyways, 17 is Kagetsu versus Meiko Satomura, Kagetsu's retirement match.
This was that's a bit bittersweet, honestly.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Very good match though. 16, Shoko Nakajima versus Miyu Yamashita, the Tokyo Joshi Pro Princess Cup in the semifinals, which took place on night 5.
Surprised you have this in miscellaneous and not in the TJPW list.
That's because TJPW was not a regular promotion covered in 2020.
That's fair. Even though I think we talked about it quite more than we did even like most of the promotions.
Eventually we did, but the other ones were guaranteed regular talking points. Unlike 2021, where TJPW has made the list.
It's earned the right.
Yes. 15, Arisa Nakajima versus Asuka, all caps. BTS title from Seedling, Delivered to You show. This was an empty arena match. We're going to get a lot of those this year, but this was the kind of doldrums of empty arena, and probably the freshest the main event scene has seen in Seedling in years.
Right. It's weird with this one match. I remember being kind of high on it first, and I've watched it a few times since, and every time I watch it, I'm less and less high on it. I feel like the empty arena has a lot to do with that.
Absolutely. It's very hard to watch matches in a cave setting. 14, Natsumi Maki versus Sari, also Tokyo Joshi Pro, January 4th Korakuen show. This was a show you got me to retroactively watch, and this is where I kind of really understood the hype behind Natsumi Maki.
Yeah, I think this was like my favorite match from her throughout most of the year. Her and I know we're both not very high on Sari, but she definitely gave it her all in this one because they're best friends. They're very, very close. You look at their social media. She even said goodbye to her on social media as she left for WWE recently. I like this match a lot. Natsumaki just came back from injury. What better match to have than to have a match with someone you're super close with as your match back, especially given how heartbreaking her injury was. I love the match. It was great.
Number 13 is Thunder Rosa versus Priscilla Kelly, NWA Shockwave. From December 11th was when it aired. I know on pay-per-view it was before that, but this is when I saw it. Was when it got to YouTube on Shockwave. This match was the best indie women's match, and I would go out on a limb saying it was the best Western women's match of the year. Rough year for Western women's wrestling in 2020, unfortunately.
I mean, I think that's going to kind of be the theme going forward a little bit sometimes. Depends on sort of what you're watching and where you're watching it. I never watched this match, but I know you're very high on it, though.
Yes, it was very hard-hitting. I thought it was the best Western women's match throughout the year. maybe the Thunder Rosa Hikaru Shida match is up there, but I still don't think it's nearly as good as this one. Among a lot of the other AEW Women's Division matches, Impact had nothing that came close, and WWE had so many shit finishes that didn't even get on my radar this year. Number 12, Best Friends, the women's one. That's Tsukasa Fujimoto and Nakajima versus Yoshiko and Sari. BTS tag titles November 27th.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about this match other than the fact that it took them forever to finally put it up for us to actually watch.
Very true.
I think that hurt it for me personally because I'd already seen the results and was kind of in a mood with them, with how they had went about putting this match up and doing that really crappily, like, was it 9 minute? Not even 9 minutes, like 3-minute video with just the match being clipped, and just, I don't know. This match kind of hurt in that regard for me. I think how it was put out hurt it more than the actual match.
Well, we did end up seeing the whole thing in its final form eventually, so.
Did, but it definitely took a while for us to get there.
Now we're getting to the high end stuff. I thought from 11 to 1 on miscellaneous is where the gap got really high. Number 11 is Kenny Omega versus Laredo Kid, AAA Mega title at Triple Mania. One of 2 luchador matches that made the list this year. Kind of low, me, but let's face it, Mexico didn't have a whole lot of wrestling this year.
It was good. I was kind of surprised to see a good match because I don't really watch any lucha, and Kenny Kenny did really well to sort of format to a lucha style. I think that shows how great he is at adapting to the wrestling styles.
Absolutely. All right, top 10 here in miscellaneous top 20. Walter versus Ilya Dragunov. I swear these two have made my wrestler matches of the year in some form every year since I started this podcast. These two guys. NXT UK title October 30th. This might seem low to people, but as we said on the podcast, production and commentary does hurt a match. And even though this was fantastic, I don't think anybody could argue how great it was. Production, the camera work, and the incessant commentary, if I have to mute a match, that hurts it. That's what hurt this one. Why it's not higher.
Also made me nauseous. Mm-hmm. The constant camera cuts made me not be able to fully pay attention to it because I had to look away because I was getting nauseous.
Yeah. But yeah, these two have made since I started the wrestling podcast, these two guys have faced each other and made match of the year every year. So it's kind of funny that even in WWE, they managed to win. The only WWE match this year, by the way. 9, Kento Miyahara versus Zeus, All Japan Champion Carnival Final. Number 8, Bobby Guns versus David Starr. Loser leaves promotion or wins the title match. WXW 16 Carat Night 2. Now, this one's kind of bittersweet because of the speaking out movement with David Starr kind of being the catalyst to it all and being turns out to be a shitty spouse and person in a lot of ways. Regardless, the match is really good, and at the time I thought it was going to be easily a top 5 match of the year for me. So, all right. 10, 9, 8, 7. Arisa Nakajima versus Yoshiko, BTS Seedling Close to You. Good match, Kay, wouldn't you say?
Great match. I think it was in my top 5.
Oh. Ooh, top 5 overall, right? Yeah, that's correct.
Top 5 overall, yeah. I was pretty high on this match, and I'm still pretty high on it going back and watching it.
All right, well, stay tuned to hear Kay find out where in his top 5 it fell. Number 6 is Bandito versus Mike Bailey, 16 Carat Night 2, Round 2. This is the tournament in WXW, the biggest tournament in Europe every year. This was the best. You could argue this is actually the best luchador match of the year, and the fact that it took place in Germany is kind of funny.
It's very funny.
Yeah, this match was so good, it caused the entire crowd to pelt the ring in euros, like they're in Mexico throwing the coins in the ring. So even the fans treated this like a special luchador match at the very end. It is I swear this is one of the most low-key matches that everyone has been sleeping on all year. All right, number 5, Kento Miyahara versus Suwama. Triple Crown, All Japan Pro Wrestling Dream Power Series. This is the one where Suwama won the title from the fabled Mini Tanahashi himself.
Mini Tanahashi's a way to put it.
Yes. Recommend. Number 4, I call this the Noah block here. It is Go Shiozaki versus Takashi Sugiura. GHC title from Noah, Final Chronicle, December 6th. And number 3 is Go Shiozaki versus Katsuhiko Nakajima. GHC title, Noah, 20th anniversary show. The 45-plus minute, what's the word? Marathons?
One was 60, and I refused to watch because it was 60.
One was almost 60. Get your facts straight, buddy.
Whatever, it's close enough to 60, you might as well call it 60. I sure as hell wasn't going to watch it, that's for sure.
Yeah. The reason why I put the Katsuhiko Nakajima one above the Sugiura one was simply because I was way more invested in the story of Nakajima more, so it made everything much more impactful and meaningful to me, while the Sugiura one came like a week later, and while a good match, it didn't have that kind of emotional grab to me as an outside Noah fan. Follow me?
Yeah, I follow you. It definitely didn't hit very well for me. I think it picked up definitely towards the end there, but I just can't get the matches that this long, and structure that Noah has definitely loses me quickly.
Right. Number 2, Aereo versus Viano 3 Jr. Mask versus Mask from AAA March 1st. Hour-long lucha match, 2 out of 3 falls. Villain versus the hometown babyface. A classic in lucha storytelling. Did it make my top 10? Stay tuned for more.
Ooh, way to plug that top 10.
That's right. And number 1, should come as no surprise, I've been high on this match since the day it happened. Yuka Sakazaki versus Mizuki Tokyo Joshi Pro. Princess title match at Wrestle Princess, November 7th. I think we all have a lot of thoughts as we go into our top 10s later in the show.
All right, I think all I want to say is this is the best match in that company's history. If you haven't seen it, you're doing yourself a great disservice. Go watch the damn match.
That's right. That's the miscellaneous top 20. Hope you had your pens and pencils out on a piece of paper. Kids still do that today, right?
I don't know. I'm
Get
not
your
a kid,
Harry
and I
Potter
don't
magic
have kids.
paper out, aka iPads, and write it all down.
There you go. That's probably what they do nowadays, right? I don't know.
All right, I gotta find the Kenny Omega drop because it's time to go into our top 10 AEW matches of the year, or at least what I got, anyways.
The one-winged angel screams. It fuels my hopes and dreams. The best bag of shine.
All right. So, let's not waste any time, Kay. Got our top 10
All
AEW
right.
matches. You came into AEW halfway through the year, so you've missed out on some early gems that were really good.
Yeah, I kind of want to preface that sort of when it comes to the men, I'm not going to really have a top 10 because I don't think I watched enough of it over the course of the year to get a top 10.
Okay. Number 10, and I love the fact, like, this is the importance of writing all these down and having an order to it all, and a little note next to it to remind you what the match was and what you liked. That's what I do. Kenny Omega versus and Hangman Page versus the Lucha Bros on Dynamite from February 19th for the tag titles. Great match. Lucha Bros. Number 9, Kenny Omega. You'll see a theme here. Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page at Full Gear. Culmination of a nice little tournament. You watched this one, Kay.
I did. It's in my top 5.
Oh, of AEW, right?
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
do you want me to speak on it now or go when I go down it?
Well, speak on it now.
All right, sure. I liked this. I thought I was pretty big into the story of Kenny and Hangman because when I had hopped in, this is when this story started kicking off a little bit. I will say towards the end portions of that build, I was getting a little fatigued because I felt like they were waiting too long for it. Boy, when they pulled the trigger on it, they did it very well. I liked it a lot. And, I think the way the story's going now, I'm even more interested.
Right. I do like the fact that Kenny hadn't turned full heel yet at that point. He just was sick of Hangman Page prior after they lost the tag titles, and it led into this match So very much liked the continuation of the story there. Number 8, Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston, also at AEW Full Gear, the I Quit match. Now, the reason why I have this so high, and I thought about matches like this, was what's going to have lasting value, right? And what does AEW need to do as a promotion to separate itself from cliched Western promotional wrestling, right? The WCW not being an ECW knockoff, WWE's formula that Impact TNA constantly does to their detriment. This is a match, I believe, ticked all the boxes into separate AEW from the pack. And that's why and it was a damn good hardcore match. Did it make your list?
Oh, I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was good. I definitely don't think it was the best of the Moxley defenses that I had seen.
Ooh, what do you think
I
was?
have I think the MJF one was the one I liked the most. If we're not counting the title change, I like the MJF one a lot.
Did Winter is Coming Moxley Omega make your list?
It did. It's on the list as well.
Okay, so good honorable mention from Kay. I don't blame you at all. Number 7.
I like the story, the whole ring and everything, the toss of the ring and how it was all played out was very well done.
Oh yeah, the MJF match was very solid. I think a lot of people are sleeping on that match because of the way the show felt emotionally and unfortunately with the Matt Hardy fall. So it really hurt the rest of the show. Unfortunately, I think that's what's holding that match back. But in hindsight,
yes,
but
I'm a sucker for storytelling, so good storytelling always gets a prop in my book.
Number 7, Cody versus Brody Lee for the TNT title. Dog collar match on Dynamite. Basically the same concept as the Moxley Kingston match. And in sadness, this was Brody Lee's last wrestling match.
Do you believe it? This is my AEW match of the year.
Whoa! I'm very happy to hear that, Kay.
I loved the build to this match. I love the story being told within the match. Again, for me, storytelling will always put a match above a normal just wrestling match. And this one had so much good storytelling, from Cody being just destroyed, him coming back and trying to regain the belt.
That's my angle of the year.
I love everything about it. It was such a good match, and I think I popped the most watching this match.
Yeah.
And by the end, I felt exhausted, and I felt satisfied with what I had watched.
Coming in at number 6 is Omega and Hardy versus La Sex Gods. That's Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho. Street Fight Dynamite May 6th. This is the now infamous match where Hardy and Omega in a golf cart type vehicle run over Sammy Guevara GTA style.
I've seen that gif somewhere. I have another Street Fight on my list.
Number 5, Young Bucks FTR tag titles at Full Gear. 3 Full Gear matches made my top 10 matches of the year for AEW. Damn good pay-per-view.
I would say would that be your AEW show of the year? Like pay-per-view wise?
It absolutely was. Number 4, Best Friends versus Santana Ortiz Parking Lot Brawl Dynamite September 16th. A lot of good tag matches in AEW this year, one might say.
Yes, this is number 3 on my list.
Ooh. Mid-card feud of the year, I would say, with the payoff. All starting over a minivan.
I liked it. The B-Driver was the best part.
I bet you did. Number 3, Kenny Omega versus Pac. Iron Man match, 30 minutes, Dynamite, February 26th. The only DQ in AEW in 2020 came in this match. That was the first fall. Number 2, The Elite and Matt Hardy versus the Inner Circle Stadium Stampede at Double or Nothing. Okay, this is AEW doing DDT at its finest.
I have not seen this match, but if it's anything from what I've seen from the GIFs, I like shenanigans. And I like DDT shenanigans, so yeah.
Go. And number 1 should come as no surprise. It's Hangman and Omega versus the Young Bucks Revolution tag titles. Stay tuned for more on that, for sure.
So the one that I have on my list at number 2 that wasn't on this list was Thunder Rosa and Hikaru Shida.
Ah,
I really like, because I think for me how low I was on the sort of AEW women at the time.
sure.
I think the fact that this match was in my book a 4-star match immediately puts it higher up on my list, because obviously I have a bit of a bias for women's wrestling. Don't know if that's been obvious
No,
the
I
entire
don't know
time I've
anyone
been.
would get that idea.
I love women's wrestling. I feel like it's so much more entertaining sometimes to me. But this was a good match, and for the first time, Sheeta looked like Sheeta. I was like, oh, she's able to do all of her old stuff. She looks like Sheeta. She can go fast. She can strike hard. It was just great. I loved seeing Sheeta look like she's back in her old self again.
It helps
And
when you
having
have
to
a
hold back and
competent
carry a
opponent.
match. Yeah, she didn't have to carry the match or hold herself back. She just went full blown Sheeta, and I loved it.
Let's move on to DDT. All right, not wasting any time. We're going number 10, Konosuke Takeshita versus Jun Akiyama, Ultimate Party. Just classic wrestling at its finest.
I like this match. It was good.
Go. Number 9, Endo versus Yuki Ueno, KOD title from the DDT TV show number 6, and Summer Vacation, and Dio Day 4. They had a trilogy of matches. It was very good, and it ultimately raised Yuki Ueno above kind of lower mid-card status to possible main eventer. And likewise is number 8, Tetsuya Endo versus Kazusada Higuchi. They had a 2-match series, Right to Challenge, Challenge Sword from DDT TV show 1 and the Dio Day 3. So kind of a similar path. The only difference is Higuchi never challenged for the KOD title. Could we get that in 2021? That remains to be seen. Number 7 is Nautilus versus Strong Hearts for the tag titles at Peter Pan Night 2. This was the closest you might see to a All Japan women's tag match with men. It's just go, go, go the whole time. Very good.
Yeah, it definitely felt like an old school All Japan women's match.
Number 6, Konosuke Takeshita versus Harashima, the Dio D5 from December 12th. This was a match that culminated in an entire tournament where 2 guys were beat up and selling limbs like no other. I thought it was just above that Jun Akiyama match, and it didn't need any it didn't need a series of matches to put it all together as one package. Know what I mean?
I know what you mean. I think it's number 3 on my list. I only have a top 3, by the way, in case anyone was wondering. It's number 3 on my list.
Number 5 is DDT, again, at its finest. It's Konosuke Takeshita versus Yoshihiko in the last man standing match from Peter Pan, Day 1. Okay, someone died this night. Or did they?
Dun, dun, dun.
You know, now I look at it, Takeshita made this list 3 times. How about that?
How about that? He's still committed murder.
Number 4, Eruption versus Dino, Harata, and Naya from DDT Live, August 27th, the water park match. This involved dancers. This involved bubble shots and swinging on cranes.
This is my number 1 DDT match.
Not surprising.
I love this match. It's everything that I like in DDT. It's shenanigans. It's fun. I laughed and I enjoyed myself.
Anything that brings a smile to your face. Number 3, Masato Tanaka, when he was champion, versus Harashima, the KOD title at DDT Sweet Dreams, January 22nd. Just 2 vets going out there and doing vet things. Then, speaking of vet things, number 2 is Masato Tanaka versus Tetsuya Endo, KOD title, DDT Peter Pan Night 2. This was the first match that made me realize that there wasn't a crowd the empty arena era. That's why it ranks so high for me. And then number 1 is Nautilus / Hirata versus Eruption, the double title match, trios and tag, October 25th, Korakuen. You will definitely need to stay tuned to hear more over my thoughts over that match. That makes your list,
my number
Kay.
2.
That's your number 2.
It's my number 2.
Okay, makes sense. You like your shenanigans more. I'm okay with that. I am okay
do.
with that. Okay. Got New Japan to go over, K. Question is, do I play Naito's music? Do I play... You know what? Why am I even asking? Kaze Ninari, Minoru Suzuki. I have a funny feeling this will be all me on this one.
You are correct. I have no list.
All right, so I'll
I
just
looked
kind
for
of...
my G1 list, and I could not find my G1 list.
Oh, you should ask me. I still have your G1 list.
Oh, well, I looked for it. It's not in my notes, and I remember nothing from the G1. It's a
All right,
blur
well,
for me.
Honorable mention is definitely the Taichi Ibushi kick match. Not make the list.
I guess I remember this match. I like that match.
That would be
That's
yours.
the one I remember.
Number 10, Golden Aces versus Dangerous Techers tag title match from Dominion and Summer Struggle Jingu. They had a good little double story there. The story was Tana is an old broken man and Ibushi's got to carry the weight. Not enough for the Dangerous Techers. Or not enough to disband the Dangerous Techers. Number 9, Okada Ibushi, Wrestle Kingdom Night 1, Double Gold Dash. This was originally one I wasn't too high on, but upon a second watch, I realized, yeah, this match was fucking good. I also watched it the first time with my mom, who absolutely hated that match. So that had something to do with it. Number 8, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Will Ospreay. New Beginnings Sapporo, February 2nd. And at the Rev Pro High Stakes show for the British title, Technical versus High Flyer. It is a great dynamic, and these two cannot have a bad match together. Number 7 is Shingo Takagi versus Ishii A Block in the G1 from Night 7. Two bulls going at it. I think you were also high on that match, Cabe. Maybe not as high as me.
I think, again, my memory of most of New Japan has been a very big blur.
That's fine.
It's
okay.
not stuck with me, for the
Fine,
very
I hear.
least.
Number 6, Hiromu Takahashi versus El Desperado, Boss J Finals, December 11th. A lot of people had this match as like one of their top 10s of the year. So.
I actually remember this match because I did watch it, and it's probably the most recent thing I watched outside of Wrestle Kingdom.
Yes, indeed.
And I like this match. I don't know if it's top 10 worthy, but I guess because I don't have a list anyways, I guess it might as well be, right?
Right. Might as well be. Number 5, Shingo Takagi versus Will Ospreay from the G1. A Block Night 5 took place on September 27th. These two guys, I believe, were in my top 5 matches of the year last year for their Boss J Finals. Here they are in the G1, doing it again. Doing God's work. Number 4, Will Ospreay. This guy seems to show up a lot, doesn't he? Will Ospreay versus Hiromu Takahashi, Wrestle Kingdom, Night 1 for the junior title. Hiromu's comeback match after his broken neck. That's how high he is. He's a good wrestler, this Hiromu guy.
Here, this Will Ospreay guy is also a good wrestler.
Yeah. A lot of people have wrong facts about him, but that's another... There's a dig for you. Number 3, Tetsuya Naito versus Hiroshi Tanahashi, G1 Block B, Night 2, September 20th. You may have noticed that a lot of G1 matches made it this year, as opposed to bigger shows. Maybe this coronavirus had something to do with New Japan this year.
And maybe Evil had something to do with it a little bit, too.
You might have a few things. Number 2, Hiromu versus Ryu Lee, New Beginning Osaka for the junior title. Kay, you would love this match. It is two luchadors, essentially, slapping the shit out of their chest and then doing flips every once in a while.
Sounds like something I would like.
Yeah, someone had a counter of like 115 chops were thrown in this match or some nonsense. Really fun.
Just some red chests over there.
I think just because of the way the year has gone, and it's just, I think people have forgotten about it. It's like the junior version of Ibushi versus Taichi, except with more athleticism.
I mean, I like that Ibushi Taichi match. I think it's the only thing I remember from the G1 because I was laughing and enjoying every bit of it.
And then number 1, Okada versus Naito, Wrestle Kingdom Night 2, Double Gold Dash. Stay tuned for more. That brings us to Dragon Gato.
Gato.
I'm going to play Dragon Daya's music.
Dragon Daya 現代からこの輝きをまとい愛を教えてよ夢のバトル
Dragon Gate had a damn good year.
They did. I have a top 5, 4 of which are on my top 10 that we'll discuss later.
Excellent. So you could just say stay tuned for more.
Exactly. I only have one that wasn't.
So Dragon Gate's actually a tough one to kind of gauge because when they reach the highest of highs, do they reach a high? But they kind of stay the course for a lot of it during the year, and they like doing multi-man stories. So yes, the Dreamgate title matches all delivered in their own way. I don't think there was a bad match on the year. However, the tag title scene was kind of bogged down. King of Gate didn't quite deliver the way it should have, but man, did the stories deliver in Dragon Gate. So let's begin with number 10, Naruki Doi versus Yokosuka Dreamgate title, March 1st, Osaka. Number 9, I have RED team of BB Hulk and Sakamoto versus the Dragon Gate Generation team of Kota Minoura and Jason Lee. Tag titles Memorial Gate August 2nd. Did this make your list, Kay?
No, but there is one Twin Gate title match that did make my list.
Oh.
The only one that I can talk about.
Ah, okay. All right.
Want me to go ahead and say it?
No. I'm pretty sure it's on my list too. Number 8 is the 6-way steel cage match from Dangerous Gate.
Interesting. I like this a lot, but I don't know if it was match of the year where I think a lot of it was story based, which was good for me, but there was not a whole lot of wrestling.
There was
Makes
enough
any
for me,
sense.
yo.
That makes sense, yo. Most dangerous Gato.
That's right. Number 7 is Dragon Gate Generation team of Benkei, Kai, Yamato, and Strong Machine J versus the Torimon team of Shuji Kondo, Yokosuka, Yoshino, and Dragon Kid. This took place on July 15th, Korakuen Hall. In a lot of ways, this was Dragon Gate coming out of the total shutdown period and hitting the bricks running. Right? It was everything you want out of an 8-man tag, and again, you could argue this is one of the best lucha matches of the year. So it's a big 8-man tag that I was really high on. Number 6 is Keisuke Okada versus Kaito Ishida, the feud basically, Brave Gate title from Gate of Destiny and Kobe World. Did either of these two make your list?
Yes, the first title match made my list. The one,
Gate of Destiny.
that one after the turn. Yes, one of Gate of Destiny. So stay tuned for more on that.
Number 5, BB Hulk and Sakamoto, Twin Gate titles versus Yamato and Benkei from January 15th, Korakuen Hall. This was the culmination of the tag title finals. This is Babyface versus Heat, a full Korakuen Hall just erupting for faction warfare starting out, and what more could you ask for with these 4 guys in the ring? Sakamoto really stepped it up. A lot of good heel work here. This is before UK. Number 4, though, was an even better Twin Gate title match. Is Jason Lee and Kota Minoura versus the Torimon duo of Yokosuka and Dragon Kid from Dangerous Gate. So Dangerous Gate was quite good with a couple of those
This is
matches
not the
there.
one that I had on my list, actually.
Oh, okay. Which one was?
I have the Twin Gate title match of Jason Lee and Kota Minoura versus Genki and Susumu.
Oh,
On the November
right.
3rd show. I think I was really high on this match. I think more high than you, but I really remember liking this match a lot, especially all the near falls from Genki.
I believe that made the top 50 tag matches. If it didn't, then I just forgot about it or forgot to list it down. A lot to keep up
Shame
with.
on you.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to stay tuned to the top 50 tag matches of the year. That one's going to be a lot harder to go into detail about. But anyways, number 3, Naruki Doi versus KZ from Truthgate, Dreamgate title. KZ loses at Truthgate, much like Jungle Kiona loses in Nagoya. Every year it's a great match and inevitable.
Sun is yellow, the sky is blue, grass is green.
That's right. Number 2, Naruki Doi versus Eita, Dreamgate title, and the King of Gate finals, June 7th.
This is high on my list. This is actually pretty high on my list in my top 10 later on, so stay tuned.
Mine as well. And then number 1 should come as no surprise if you're a listener of the podcast. It is RED versus Torimon unit disbandment match at Final Gate. Definitely stay tuned for more on that one.
Yes, on mine as well.
Yes. On to Stardom. I think I should play Hanukkah Mori.
You blocked me on Facebook, and now you're going to die.
Rest in peace. Been a rough year.
It has been.
All right, Kay. Looking at my list, do you have any honorable mentions?
No, I think we about line up. Really.
Okay.
I don't see anything that's not on my top 10.
Maybe Momo Oz versus MK Sisters?
I enjoyed that match a lot, but I don't think it was my top 10 Stardom match, that's for sure.
All right, fair
They
enough.
had 10 better matches.
Number 10, Kagetsu and Mayu teaming up to take on JK Green. 9th anniversary Osaka. Kagetsu's last Stardom match.
Number 8 on my list, but that a lot of that has to do with the fact that, one, the build up to the Kagetsu Mayu tagging thing has been like a year and a half in the making.
Yeah, it has.
And the reuniting of my favorite Stardom tag team, JK Green. I would say I want them to team more, but I don't know if I want that anymore given current circumstances.
Number 9 is the Queen's Quest faction versus Team Marvelous from September 28th at Korakuen.
It's at my number 10. I enjoyed that match a lot, especially the Takumi Momo stuff.
Number 8 is Mayu Iwatani versus Tam Nakano, Korakuen, September 19th at the 5-star. Now, in hindsight, this turned out to be a very pivotal match for a program going forward.
I think this is the only 5-star match that I have on my list.
Ah, okay. You're in agreement. Number 7, Mayu Iwatani versus Takumi Iroha, the double shot freelancer battle, 9th Annie in Osaka, and October 18th, Korakuen.
Yeah, I think I'm higher on the second one than the first one. The first one just felt like more of a one-sided beatdown. I think that was by design, given the circumstances around the match. The second one, just Killer Mayu, was kind of good. I kind of liked a lot of that more.
Well, you know my feelings on the finish. And I have this now like mentality over freelancers coming in and then just leaving and doing nothing. So, anyways,
Well,
still very
sorry.
good matches. It made the list no matter what. So there you go. I know I'm the low man on the 2 matches. Number 6, the Julia Tam Nakano feud for the white belt. Korakuen Hall, July 26th. 5-star in Fukuoka, September 14th. And October 3rd, white belt match in Yokohama.
Yeah,
Arguably
talk about the tale of 3 matches.
Yeah, no kidding.
The first match was awful. I did not enjoy that first match.
It definitely brought down its overall value in the top 10 to me. But the other 2
Right,
did
the
bring
5-star
it
match was
back
good,
up quite
though.
a bit. Oh yeah,
I think
5-star
the
was
5-star match, like once I watched the 5-star match, okay, these 2 can have good match. Then the white belt match, I'm like, oh, I think it was the beginning right there. That white belt match, the beginning of my turning around on Julia.
Yes. Speaking of Julia, number 5, Julia versus Shuri, the Wonder and SWA double title match at Osaka Dream.
Good damn match. I loved it. Great.
2 girls going out there and having a fight against each other.
They tried to kill each other, and they're best friends at the end. I like it.
That's right. Number 4, Mayu Iwatani versus Jungle Kiona, the red belt. Nagoya, of course it is, July 24th. Very emotional match, coming off a very emotional time, and a big moment for Jungle Kiona, and a big moment for Stardom as a promotion. And I watched this match twice over. It's definitely going to be a match I will remember for a long time, and a emotional situation.
See, I don't have this on my list at all. I felt like I tried to rewatch it and I just couldn't bring myself to do so. Maybe now that more time has passed, I might be able to, but I just feel like as a whole, given the feelings I had watching that match, I think every time I go back and try to rewatch it, those same feelings sort of bubble up over it. So I just don't know if I could ever go back and rewatch it, given the circumstances.
Yeah, I thought about putting it higher and making a big dissertation about how important the match actually is. And maybe in time that day will come. Maybe you're right, not enough time has passed for me to rate it higher in its current form. But it still made my top 4 nonetheless, and that's how much it does mean to me, and just the overall vibe of it all just seems, I don't know, it seems weirdly right in hindsight as well. Like, it's not just us as Stardom fans needed the match. I think Jungle and Mayu and the wrestlers needed to do the match as well.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I have the same feelings. So that, remember that first show they had back after all of it, and you know that very final, that all the tributes, especially in that final match, and I still can't bring myself to watch any of that show, especially the end where Julia does the thing to the sky and everything. I can't. I just can't. Hopefully, I can still watch Hana Kimura matches at this point just yet.
Number 3, Mayu Iwatani versus Shuri, Yokohama title match. Love this match. I praise it to the wind.
It was a good match. It was. I think the funniest part was after the match. Mayu's like, "Yeah, I'm a masochist."
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sure. That explains a lot, though, Mayu. I know this match was great. It was Shuri kicking the crap out of her and Mayu just surviving.
Number 2, Mayu versus Momo, 9th anniversary for the title. Long time it was on the list at number 1. But nonetheless, it was eclipsed at the very end. Utami versus Momo, world title Osaka Dream, and the 5-star Fukuoka Night.
I have these two reversed, and I think the crowd has a lot more to do with that. The Mayu Momo match was back before all of the virus stuff, so the crowd was able to make all kinds of noise.
True.
I think that made the near falls and all the kicks, and then hearing the women in the crowd, which is something that I feel like I want to hear more now. It's just gonna sort of get that overall feeling that they're making progress. The Momo and Mayu chants from the women in the crowd also amped it up for me a lot too.
Yeah, stay tuned for my thoughts over why I have Utami Momo so high. So there you go. If you kind of put all these together, you can kind of figure out my top 10.
You showed your hand a little bit there.
Yeah, but you don't know the order.
Oh, you don't know the order. Also, the same thing with Mayu Momo. Outside of what I said and the Momo Utami match, those are also on my list. So more on those to come.
Right. Okay. Our last and final promotion to go over our top 10s. Ice Ribbon. Because we are the Ice Ribbon cast.
Oh, it wasn't covered. I hit that Maya music.
Ice Ribbon, top 10. This was a fun one to make.
I sure hope you put that Maya music on the ones that look really stupid.
I did put the Maya music.
Awesome.
I had that on lock.
Awesome.
Lock and down.
And key.
I don't know about the key. All right, number 10. Okay. I marked out during this. This was during the original shutdown period. This is during the Juku title tournament. This was Sakushi versus Mochi Miyagi. The Wall Crusher moment was made.
That was. I don't think I was as high on this as you. I definitely have one of the shutdown matches on my list.
All right. Well, you're looking at my list. Any what didn't make mine? That made you.
I have Sakushi and Ham on my list.
In Ham. Oh, from the yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I went back and rewatched that match after we had watched the Ham Sakushi match from Ribbon Mania.
Right. Yeah. or the show following Ribbon, the Yokohama.
Yeah, show following Ribbon. Yeah. And the desperation in Tsukushi trying to wildly scramble to get the win, while Ham just does her best to be a wall to stop that. I found myself mildly enjoying that match more than I did the other ones.
I do want to make an honorable mention to the Tsukasa Hamako Hoshi match for the Juku title. That was a very emotional one, and going by a lot of what Ice Ribbon fans voted on, that was their top match of the year.
That's my 10 and 9. The 10 is the Tsukushi Hamako and the Tsukasa Hamako. I went back and watched that as well. And Hamako trying and sometimes failing to do everyone's finishers was just fantastic. I loved it.
Are there any other honorable mentions, Kay?
Let me take a gander right quick. You don't have the. Wait, do you have the Akane match? Yeah, okay. Akane Maya match?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. No. That's about it. Our lists are about the same outside of this too.
Number 9, Maya Yuki versus Akane Fujita, title at Reborn 1049. I feel like this was Akane Fujita's coming out party to possibly be a main eventer, or at least challenge for the title, be one of those roles.
And she looked really good too. I think Eric from the Joshi Pod had said that she had talked about she was training, getting fit and everything, and definitely showed in this match. Just probably the most fire I had seen from her outside of her match with Takase later on in the year.
Absolutely. Number 8.
Great.
Yes. Number 8 is Tsukasa Fujimoto and Nakajima, the best friends, possibly tag team of the year, versus Aono and Sakushi at 1078 Osaka Ribbon.
Yes. Good match. Good match.
Number 7, you will see this name pop up on the... You'll see 2 names in particular pop up a lot. Suzu Suzuki versus Tei Honma, Infinity title, Ice Ribbon Actress Girls Joint Show, November 16th. Now, you might say I'm cheating with the Takase Fujita match, because that was on the same show, but that was for the Actress Girls title, and it was a joint show, and Actress Girls is an outside promotion. So there, I did not cheat.
Not wrong, especially because one was for a different belt, so it makes sense.
That's right.
I'll give you this pass. I'll back you on that one.
There you go.
I love this match. It was great.
It was good.
So,
Good match.
It was a very good match.
Number 6, Suzu Suzuki versus Tsukasa Fujimoto, March 14th. Suzu has trained. She has gone through the woods. Tsukasa found her, but she has found the ways.
I believe this is my number 4 match. I loved this match. And I was shocked by the end, too. I did not expect Suzu to win, and the fact that she won, and how she won, too, I think is important. Rolling up and reversing the JOC. It's great. It was also the first, I think this is right here, is the start of the kicking off of the Suzu run.
I think it was the midpoint, actually.
So I think you're counting the Maya Suzu first title match then?
Yes.
From 2019?
Yes.
I count that a little bit, but I feel like this is where the sort of push was really kicked off, like where we started seeing the fire come out from under the rocket and starting to launch.
This is where she debuted the new gear, too, right?
New gear, new song, new attitude, no more chitting.
Yeah, that's why I say it's a midpoint, because everything changed. You ran for it. Anyways, number 5, Suzu Suzuki versus Sakushi, Ribbon Night, September 20th. Sakushi jacked and ready to rock. She taking that title 2021. This match was awesome.
This is my number 2 match in Ice Ribbon. It's also on my list, so stay tuned for that.
Okay. Number 4, Risa Sera versus Rina Yamashita. Fantastic death match from Yokohama. My mom gave it 5 stars, legendarily.
This is my number 5 match. Oh my god, I loved this match. I don't like death matches usually, but Risa Sera has made me like Risa Sera death matches. That's for sure.
We seem to be very close in a lot of our kind of structure. We kind of have the same list, just in slightly different order.
Right. I think I have one match not on this list, on your list. It's on mine, but I think it's because it happened at Ribbon Mania, but it's on my top 10, so I'll wait for that later.
Yeah, well, Ribbon Mania, for all intents and purposes of the podcast, is for next year.
Yeah, but I squeaked it in, because screw you. I make my own rules sometimes.
Well, okay, whatever. Number 3, Maya and Tsukasa versus Arisa and Sakushi, the birthday tag match from Jumbo Ribbon.
I really liked this match. I think I also liked it because it teased Arisa Maya.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, it made sure it teased that like you got just very little. You got small tastes of this match that I would pay an arm and a leg and my kidney for. And then you get the Sakushi victory at the end on Tsukasa's birthday, no less. She pins the birthday girl. I love this.
Number 2 is a match that I speak highly of. I have from the start. It's Maya versus Hiragi Kurumi, March 14th, the Infinity title match.
And number 5. I loved this match. My number 6. I'm looking at the list backwards. Number 5 was the death match.
Yeah.
My number 6. I've never seen Kurumi look so badass in such a long time. I want to see more of this version of Kurumi, the killer Kurumi, the monster. Less of the goofy Frank Sisters thing. I think when she's a monster, she just comes off like a different, like a whole different wrestler, different aura about her. Just destroyed Maya at times, and she didn't lose. She passed out. So,
Number
get her a
1,
title shot if she wanted to.
yeah, and number 1 should come as no surprise. It's Maya versus Suzu Suzuki, the combination of Infinity title matches, Saitama and Yokohama, where the change was finally made. Stay tuned for more.
I have this as my number 1 match in Ice Ribbon.
Yeah.
And stay tuned to see where it ranks in the overall list, though I don't think that's a shock by most people once they hear it.
Yeah, it's a shame you didn't officially send in your Voices of Wrestling ballot. Otherwise, we could have been the lone people that got that in the top 100.
I did. Damn, Google didn't. Listen, I'm already frustrated. I spent an afternoon putting that together.
Shame on you. So that
I wrote a paragraph for this match, and it's just lost to the ether.
Yeah, well, at least I got it at least represented. It was the lone Ice Ribbon match that made it into Voices Wrestling top whatever amount of matches there were. So I was out on Sad Island there on that one.
Oh, I'm so frustrated.
But I did help get the Yuka Mizuki match into the top 20. So I had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, good on you for that. Maybe next year I'll figure out how to not have it just disappear after I press submit.
That didn't make your top 10 overall, did it?
No, surprisingly,
Okay,
I guess because
so then you
we're
couldn't
putting
have helped it get into possibly the top 15.
No, but the Maya Suzu thing, I think I'd like to see if they would have used my paragraph, like I stress college paragraph on that match.
Right.
I when I say I spent a while on that one, I did. I made sure I articulated very well, and now it's gone. Sad.
Well, we managed to cut this into an hour pretty much on the dot. I'm very proud of us. We went through all the matches.
Hey.
Went through 80 matches, Kay. Arguably more because of the rivalries that we had. So for the remainder of the podcast, Parker will join us, and we'll be going in depth over our top 10 matches of the year that we also submitted to Voices of Wrestling. And I'm proud to say, at this juncture, without the top 10 revealed at this point in time, that Voices of Wrestling has actually used 4 out of my top 10 matches in my write-ups on their site. So go check that out. Look for my name, Jacob Woolley, representing Red Leaf Retrocast. So hooray for me!
And pity me as my thing got lost in the ether. God damn
And
it.
I believe a couple of Parkers were also chosen. So there you go. I'll
That's
play.
it's awesome.
Say. What did you want to say, Kay?
I said it's awesome that you're able to get some of these matches up there.
Yes, very proud of it. So I'm gonna play Micah style music and get us into the top 10 matches of 2020. Hope you guys enjoy. And now our Match of the Year podcast. We get a special guest, Parker from Wrestling Observer Newsletter Figure 4 Daily Online, is back for this special episode. Good to have you back, my man.
I'm glad to be back. There were, even with the pandemic, there were a crazy amount of really fantastic matches last year, and it was really difficult for me to narrow it down. So I'm excited to go through some of the best ones today.
What was your general thought process for how you broke down your top 10? Now, before you answer that, I do have to preface that this is our Voices of Wrestling submissions for matches of the year. Our top 10 overall, not by the promotion that we had just gone over previously on this podcast. This is all our submissions. So, Parker, what was your mindset when you came up with your top 10?
Yeah, my mindset is just when I give a match a star rating, which I do every single match I watch, I will then just order it like that at the end of the year. And then obviously because I had, I rated 3 matches at 5 stars last year, I had to determine which of those 3 I thought was the best. And then in addition to that, I think a lot of people do this, but I find this to be a lot of fun too. I make the number 10 spot kind of a sentimental favorite, maybe a match that wasn't the 10 best just pure wrestling matches I saw all year, but one that was a particular favorite and one that I will certainly remember beyond 2020, even if it wasn't an all-time classic in the ring, so to speak.
I like how you brought that particular part up about your number 10 is memory. And for my number 10, it's also a very similar mindset. What stuck out to me and what will I remember for years going forward? My general mind, before we get to UK, I know you're just salivating at the mouth. Okay, you don't need to call the police on me. It's totally fine.
It's totally not me.
My mindset was, the more I thought about it in such a fascinating year in terms of wrestling, is how much more emotion and long-term storytelling played into effect in my top 10. So that's where I'm coming from when a lot of the stories culminated this year. You might think a year where a lot of people maybe aren't, because of the coronavirus, they're not drawing the big houses. Maybe promotions will hold off on culminating storylines, maybe hold off on big-time matches. Not the case with the promotions we follow, I feel. I feel that they wanted to keep their audience more engaged than ever when they might fall out of wrestling. So I saw in the promotions I follow and the wrestlers I follow, etc., really just connected with me on an emotional level throughout the year and just how they kept my interest overall. So that's my general mindset. Kay, you're up, buddy.
I think my mindset, so when I rate a match, and when I kept trying to go back to when I was trying to order this list, because I think the order was the hard part, at least the 5 downwards was the hard part for me. Match to me is more than just the in-ring. I think for when I rate a match, I feel like it's the outside, the story going in, all the emotions going in, as well as the stuff that happens in the ring, and even some of the stuff that happens outside the ring after the match. Sort of rate more, even in the circumstances around the match, as you'll probably see with one of mine that I have kind of somewhat high on the list. Not high, but kind of like the bottom end. But it's the circumstances as well that I think add my sort of attachment to the match and how much I value a match. So I do think mine's more emotion sometimes than it is, good technical work. And I just think that's what I get more out of my wrestling is storytelling. I'm a very big sucker for it. So,
is there anything in a match in particular that you gravitate towards over something else? I'll give you an example. For me, really good selling of limb work, I am an absolute sucker for. And if it can toe the line of not over dramatizing something, so you're not you don't have your wrestlers cutting promos in the ring, it's more of a body language and facial expression drama to it all. You put those two things together with a long-term story, then and only then will the in-ring start to matter more and more. So if you have the excellent technical and high-flying, or what have you, depending on the promotion and their style, you put everything else together, that's what I will gravitate towards, is that limb work and body language that gets across to me. So how about you?
I think it's so I do like limb work. I like it to an extent. I don't like it overdone. Sometimes it can kill a match if it's too much.
You don't like people selling the leg like it's falling off 100% of the time?
No, I think that's called bad selling. It's overselling, in my opinion. Overselling, such a thing. People just don't realize it. I think when it comes to the emotions and the storytelling, I agree with the not cutting a promo in the middle of the ring. I just think that kills everything, and I hate that. I think it's the body language, the facial expression. I think that gets me, especially if the story going in is emotional.
Mhm.
I feel like if the match shows that, and I'll probably explain some of that more in my number 1 and number 2 picks. I think the story going in and then how the story is being told within the ring, if it matches the same level as the story going in, it immediately shoots up straight, like really high for me. I think that's a thing for me. I'm a very big sucker for storytelling, especially good storytelling. I think I've said before, a storytelling can make an average match be a good match for me.
Makes sense to me. Parker, how about yourself?
Yeah, for me, it's all about the crowd and the atmosphere. I'm a major. I get really into a match when I feel like the crowd and the environment and the atmosphere of the event and the match is up to a certain level to where people are fully invested in what's happening at all times, and they're living and dying with every move, with every finisher and reversal and everything like that. To me, that is what makes matches go from great to a match of the year contender. So if we'll go through my list. 8 of the 10 matches, I just quickly went through it, are matches where the live crowd was just going completely out of their minds for what happened. So
the Kikuchi effect, as I have dubbed it.
Yeah. So to me, that's pretty much. I mean, unless the in-ring work is just like baffling a lot of the time, I think something like Naito versus Evil, a lot of like those, the crowd was going crazy for a lot of those matches, but I just wasn't a fan of what was going on in the ring. That can take away from it.
That does make sense.
Generally speaking, if you get an environment where the crowd and the audience is going up and going down with every up and down that happens in the ring, then I'm gonna be a big fan of it as well.
All right, let's not waste any more time here. Kay, why don't you go first, my man, with your number 10?
So my number 10 is the Arisa Nakajima versus Yoshiko from July 13th for the Beyond the Sea title. I think a lot of what made me like this match wasn't the outside storytelling, was more the in-ring storytelling. The 2 matches prior to that, as well as the tag match, I believe, prior to that, being the story of Arisa Nakajima and Yoshiko not being able to put the other down. Then the match itself culminating in a 29 almost time limit draw like they had been prior, a 29 and some odd change minute beatdown where it was more Arisa trying to wear out Yoshiko and Yoshiko just being a bulldozer, a brick shithouse, and just running over everything. She got less offense, because I've rewatched the match. She got less offense in than Arisa did, but her offense hit harder. And I think how that match was structured was probably the best match I've seen in Seedling since the hair versus hair match with Nanai and Arisa. And I think all that has to do with the in-ring storytelling. And I mean, they didn't really follow up very well on it after the fact, but I do think this one match, given it was the crowning of Yoshiko, and you'll probably notice a theme on my list, crowning of new people, new big stars, is also a big thing for me this past year. I think the storytelling in the ring was what held it up the most.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I'm very much of the same mindset a lot of the times, because there's nothing better than the crowning of a new star coming out of a match. I recently did Starrcade 83 for the Patreon, and that's the Harley Race Ric Flair match where Ric Flair finally, like, kind of, it's his multi-year long journey to get to that point, going over the old star situation. That's why it was such a big deal. So I totally understand where you're coming from. There's an old reference for you. That retro reference on this retro podcast do anything for you, Parker?
Yeah, I actually watched a lot of the Starrcades recently, so I actually do appreciate that reference. I just want to mention that this match would have been an honorable mention on my list. It was probably top 20 for me. So I completely agree with Kay in his evaluation there, and probably a top 3 Joshi match of the year for me. So yeah, really fantastic match, and to me, the Seedling match of the year for sure.
I would agree, Seedling match of the year, absolutely.
I
All
think
right,
far and away, yeah. They didn't top it all year.
Parker, why don't you take the reins next?
Yeah, so my number 10 was, like I mentioned, a bit of a sentimental favorite, one that's I'm definitely going to remember beyond 2020. And that is John Silver, Alex Reynolds of Dark Order, and Hangman Page against the Inner Circle, so MJF, Santana, and Ortiz from the December 30th Brody Lee tribute show, just 4 days after his passing. This match was, I mean, it was just in terms of in-ring work, I mean, it was a fantastic match, with John Silver having one of like a Cesaro-like hot tag that people are going to return to over and over again as, you know, one of the best examples of what a great hot tag can be, just running wild on everybody. But, you know, the moments in the match of MJF doing what genuinely only MJF could do in terms of taunting the son of a man who died less than a week before, and the son being completely game for it and being happy to be a part of it, you know, cracking a smile, smacking that kendo stick over over MJF's face is like one of the most enduring wrestling images I can think of. And beyond that, you know, the reason that the match stands out for me was the star of the match was John Silver, who Brody Lee essentially single-handedly turned into a major superstar because he got so popular on being the elite through his interactions with Brody Lee. And then the idea that the show, it was the Brody Lee tribute show, but it wasn't really about Brody Lee, so to speak, or it wasn't really for Brody Lee, it was for his family, and really specifically his son, who has the ring name -1. And so this was like the perfect encapsulation of that idea. So yeah, great match. And from really, I think the best way I can put it is it was the best match on the best wrestling show I saw all year.
I think Jim Valley made a good point. I believe it was him on Twitter. He made the point that wrestling in general in today's society, at least in Western terms, needs more feel-good moments. And this was, by all definition, a feel-good moment with a family that should be in the middle, that you would think would be in the middle of grieving their eyes out, right? And for one night, they brought a smile to this kid's face to be a part of a wrestling show. That's and this, not to mention the save run-in by Rowan, his old tag team partner, with the sign, everyone breaking out in tears afterwards, especially Silver. I totally see where you're coming from on this match, and I have no argument against it at all. So with me, my number 10, it's not as emotional as that, but it is Masato Tanaka versus Tetsuya Endo, June 7th, DDT at Peter Pan for the KOD title. This one's short. We all have a certain match that kind of hits us at the right place, right time, with the right feel. This was such a match for me. Because we all, look, during this time, COVID had such an impact on wrestling. It literally changed the environment that made wrestling special. There's no crowds. There's a cavernous echo of nothing wherever you go. I mean, you just have to look at Impact and WWE's original tapings. ROH is still doing it. It just seems like they're filming in a cave, and you're just watching people go through motions in the ring. Very hard to suspend your disbelief to two people fake fighting, just to be very blunt about it. Then this match came. Tanaka and Endo had a strong story, just a straight up strong champion going through his repertoire, 20 plus year vet at this point, and Endo being the challenger on his own journey. They come to this match. It's everything that I want out of a wrestling match. I spoke about limb work. I spoke about kind of the challenger overcoming the veteran champion kind of situation. Mentioned Race and Ric Flair. I'm not saying it's these two guys are stars of that level, but you get the reference. And this was the first big time match that truly made me forget that there was no crowd, no reactions, no nothing. It was a wrestling match that caught me and pulled me into what they were doing. And to me, it delivered what I so longed for during those weeks. That's my number 10. Okay.
All right.
I know you didn't watch that match.
I think I didn't watch it. You're right. You might be surprised by this. This could be a little bit of a spoiler, but I have no DDT on my list.
No DDT. Get off this podcast right now as I sip my old-fashioned.
Well, when you told me that the Voice of Wrestling guys don't like comedy, I was like,
that
well, damn.
Doesn't mean that there isn't good wrestling on DDT.
There goes two of my favorite DDT matches right there.
Like, if you put The Fiend versus Randy Orton on your VOW top 10, they will no doubtedly kind of boot us off.
No, I was gonna put the water park show as a whole.
I know which one
but
you were
mainly
gonna
just
put.
I was gonna put the 2 water park matches and maybe the Dino match, the Dino match from my Ultimate Party.
Oh no!
Because I enjoyed that match quite a lot for what it was.
Big Match Dino comes through. He's in everybody's top 10. They just don't want to admit it.
He's in my top 10.
All right. So your number 9.
For number 9? My number 9? All right. My number 9 is Keisuke Okada versus Kaito Ishida from November 3rd for the Brave Gate title. So this is a perfect example of my reasoning for when I say stories going into matches matter a lot to me. Because the story going into this match elevated what I thought would have been more of a good match to a very good match because of the story. So to sort of break down that story for those unaware, I believe Okada and Ishida don't like each other, and I believe there was another dragon mask, a yellow demon mask, right? Mm-hmm. Presented. All the people in Dragon Gate Generation believed it to be Okada, right? Because whenever he would appear, Okada wouldn't be there. Whenever Okada would be there, yellow demon mask didn't appear. So everyone's like, oh, it's definitely you, it's definitely you. And then when it's finally revealed, oh, shocker, it's Okada. But Swerve, he kicks Ishida in the face instead of turning on his teammates, and this sets up the Brave Gate match. And so I thought that very good swerve and how well that was executed added more going into this match. And then, of course, the match being just a shit kicking the crap out of each other match that ends by referee stoppage, as it should have. I feel like if it didn't end any other way, it would have been weird. Just beat the crap out of him, won the title, crowned a new champion, again, crowning new people. And I really, really enjoyed the story going in. And then Okada's killed it since then, so I've quite liked. He shot my list in terms of my favorite Dragon Gate wrestlers, just based off of this alone.
Yeah, Kay, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to watch the most recent Dragon Gate show from Kobe, but in the main event 3-way tag, there are some great Okada Ishida interactions that you need to check out. I think that's probably my second favorite Dragon Gate match so far this year. So if you want more of that, there's definitely a match out there for you.
I believe we did watch that, didn't we, JD?
Oh yeah, and we popped hard for it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Oh sure. Because I mean they could have run that match twice. I didn't even realize. But yeah, no, I fucking loved it. I even love the rematch. The rematch doesn't rank as high for me because the first match was so much better. But I know the interactions are great. Them just kicking the shit out of each other is amazing.
Yeah, they're fantastic. So yeah, my number 9 is one that if we're gonna keep going on with stories here. This is one that I was just enthralled by from bell to bell, purely as a result of everything that the company and the wrestlers had done to set it up, to establish what was going to happen in this match, while also really keeping it pretty wide open as to who was going to win. And that is Kota Ibushi versus Sonata in the finals of this year's last year's G1 climax.
Interesting. A little bit of controversial, yes. I must say.
Yeah, a lot of people were kind of down on the match, and I get it. In my explanation, I kind of talk about how it wasn't the most spectacular in-ring match I saw all year by any means. But because the G1 climax is, for me, just in terms of my wrestling appreciation and fandom, while also, watching as much as I can, that is like the top prize in wrestling for me, is winning a G1. And then the reason it is that top prize is because not only did you win this incredible tournament, but you then are in the main event of WrestleMania of Wrestle Kingdom.
Whoa,
it's not like the Royal
that
Rumble
would be a
where,
prize.
Yeah, it's not like the Royal Rumble where you quote unquote main event WrestleMania, but you're actually like fourth from the top because they don't care. It's genuinely you are going to be in the main event of this major.
Oh my God, you're right. They do
Tokyo
that now,
Dome
don't they?
pay-per-view. Yeah. So it's so no matter what, I'm always going to be hugely invested in who wins G1 Climax Finals. I thought the work was perfect in the ring, even if it wasn't spectacular. Just as it built and built and built, and the crowd started to begin to lose their minds getting towards the finish, and then it culminated in that near fall, that Japanese clutch that Sonata utilizes that nobody ever kicks out of, and it was just a perfectly timed near fall at 2.999. It wasn't one of those near falls where he was clearly down for more than 3, but the referees and the competitors kind of sell it like he kicked out in time. I mean, it was a perfectly timed near fall that almost sent Sonata into the stratosphere. So for those reasons, I thought it was perfectly worked over 35 minutes, and it set up the stories for New Japan's next 6 months at minimum. And as we saw Ibushi winning the titles at Wrestle Kingdom, probably even further.
So here's a question. Do you think that because it's a G1 final and it has such a high bar it has to cross each and every year, do you feel that because this match perhaps didn't reach that same bar that previous years had got, that's what brought this down more than the match itself with people?
I would say yes to a certain extent. I mean, you look at years like 2017 and 2018, which were Naito versus Omega and then Ibushi versus Tanahashi. I mean, that's, for me, as good as wrestling gets. And so obviously, yeah, you're absolutely right. To live up to those standards is almost impossible. Even if you do put on a fantastic match, as I thought these two did, like, you're going to be compared to those standards, and you're most likely, even if you're as talented as these two are, not going to live up to it. So, and then I think part of it is also just Sonata. Like, Sonata isn't one of those established top guys like Ibushi is. Obviously Tanahashi, Omega, Naito, those types of guys are, and he's very sort of people's opinions on Sonata are extremely varied, and so I think people just came into the match. If you're not a huge Sonata fan, then you're probably weren't expecting a big match, especially if you're. One of the reasons that people don't really like Sonata is they feel like his matches are very aimless a lot of the time, and they kind of go a long time, but not a lot happens. And this match probably wouldn't have dispelled those fears if you're going in with that mindset. But for me, because I did maintain that faith, I think, and because they did manage to get the crowd so invested in what was going to happen later on, and because I was so invested in the company's future, I thought the work easily made it one of the 10 best matches of the year for me.
All right.
I'm one of those people that didn't like Sonata. I thought he was boring.
It's not an uncommon opinion.
Yeah, Sonata's definitely fallen off with me as one of my favorite guys, but that's a discussion for another day. My number 9, I'm sticking with Dragon Gate, and very much like Dragon Gate, the title match coming out of King of Gate seems to always have this high bar itself. So I'm kind of blending you two's pick a little bit. I'm going with Naruki Doi versus Eita from August 2nd, Memorial Gate. The RED and Toryumon rivalry continued on here, coming out of King of Gate, which saw Eita defeat Naruki Doi under questionable circumstances, RED specials and the like, and Naruki Doi getting out and then back in the tournament. So Eita was finally trying to reach the pedestal that many thought he should have been at for some time, myself included. This match does everything I was looking for as a wrestling fan, so I'm sticking with my number 10. Doi hits hard and fast, and his crazy Doi 5 over the top rope to the floor to Eita that set the pace with a like, if you remember this, Kay, he does that Doi 5 over the top to the floor, and Eita's head comes within millimeters of the apron. And we just
it was crazy.
were terrified for this. Meanwhile, Eita's game plan was the exact same that won him the match over Doi previously, and that was work the arm so he could get that numero uno submission in. That wasn't even the best part of the match. The best part of the match was the overall story of Eita rising above. This is for a heel, mind you. So for the Dragon Gate faithful, I feel that if Eita was going to win, he had to win on strength, not the RED cheating tactics, the heel the Bullet Club tactics, if you will. And there's a couple attempts at low blows, punts him in the dick, Super Delphin style, and turns down the offered chair from BB Hulk and declines the red run-in. And that's when everything just kind of goes, aha! He must win off his own strength. He kicks out of the muscular bomb that gets an audible gasp and whoo from the crowd during COVID restrictions, mind you. And yes, he does win off the limb work. It does play off the previous match. I thought this was brilliant storytelling from start to finish and to put over a new star. Despite his booking after this, a new star was made, and I think he's set. This accomplished so much in a year in which Dragon Gate was so strong. The Naruki Doi Eita, Dragon Gate, August 2nd. Go check it out. Okay, you're up, my man, or do you have thoughts over the match as well? Or is it on your list and you want to hold off on that?
It is on my list. I want to hold off. It's quite high on my list, actually. So I want to kind of hold off for a little bit. I have a little bit more to say on that than I think you said. So
excellent.
My number 8 is Shun Skywalker versus Eita from November 20th for the Dreamgate title. Okay. So when I had mentioned that I really, really liked the crowning of new stars, especially this past year, where there was a lot of that and a lot of good building to those, I think. So beforehand, I didn't know who the Shun Skywalker was, and it was you, JD, who kind of filled me in on the story with him and Benkei and him sort of going on his losing streak, then leaving to Mexico. And then he comes back, right? We see him come back after Eita beat KZ, and he's like, I'm challenging next, but I'm not going to challenge for I'm going to be the next champion. I am the next champion. And just he came off like a star almost immediately. I was like, oh, this guy pops off the screen. This guy's got to win, right? This is not going to lose, right? And sure as shit, they made sure they had him win. And I think what makes this for me was the visual of the entrances. You have Eita coming out with all of RAD. You have Shun Skywalker. Well, he's not part of any faction in a promotion that's heavily based on factions. He's by himself. Nobody in his corner. I think the camera work was also very good at portraying that as it kind of zoomed out a little bit, and you could see all of the red in Eita's corner and nobody in Shun Skywalker's corner. He was a man alone. I think the fact that he fought off RAD, who had been a menace all year, fought off all of RAD, fought off Eita, and won the belt. Took what was going to be a good match and made it a very, very good match for me. And I think the part that sealed the deal for me wasn't on Shun Skywalker's part. It was on Eita's part.
Interesting.
It was the story building to Eita and how he wasn't accepting the help originally in the Doi match, like you said, right? Then slowly, the second match with KZ, he gets the help. He doesn't ask for it, but he gets it. It helps him. And this match, he turns visibly
title
to the corner. he turns to the corner looking for the help. He goes out of his way to get the help, and it cost him because RAD couldn't beat Shun Skywalker, and because his reliance on that was sort of what he thought was going to surefire get him to win the belt. Shun Skywalker wins, and it was a crowning of a new champion. And since then, Shun Skywalker's looked like a mega star, and so I've absolutely loved this.
Yeah, got his new faction, probably the coolest in wrestling right now, next to Donna Del Mundo in.
That's next to Team Boku, I'll have you know.
Oh, Team Boku. I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. How dare I?
Well, yeah, I just want to say that I think you guys both, obviously, you have the two bookends of the Eita reign, and looking back on it in hindsight, like those 3 months or so from Dragon Gate are just the promotion as a whole. They're some of my favorite, maybe my favorite, I should say one of my favorite runs from any promotion all year, with RED like consistently getting stronger and adding, big time new members with Ento and with Kai and Kakuta and all that. And so, yeah, I think to show a bit of a bookend on those is a good way to illustrate how good that era was for Dragon Gate. Yeah, so then, moving on to my number 8 is another New Japan match and another tournament final, which was not intentional. But
if you say Okada evil, I might have to hurt you.
Yes. Yeah, it was God versus Finjuice. No,
God, it's just as bad.
No,
I'll
the finals of the finals of the 2020 Best of the Super Juniors, Hiromu Takahashi versus El Desperado.
Amazing
I pointed
match.
this out. Yes. And I think what a lot of people would say as maybe the best post-pandemic New Japan match of 2020. I think a lot of people would say that. Honestly, the first 15 minutes of this were fine. I went in completely unspoiled. I wasn't able to watch live, but I did watch later that day, like completely unspoiled. I was just kind of watching. I was like, this is pretty good. This is not, it's not quite as good as their match earlier, but this is a good match. And then a switch flips and Hiromu tears off El Desperado's mask, and suddenly he is Kyosuke Mikami, the young lion who pinned or submitted Hiromu in each of Hiromu's first 7 matches as a pro. And all of a sudden it becomes like the best closing sequence of any match outside of the Tokyo Dome I saw all year, with Desperado just snapping and becoming this, incredible, like badass sort of powerhouse in the junior division that New Japan doesn't really have right now. Trying to convince viewers that Desperado, who, while popular, has been mostly a mid to upper mid carder in the junior division, has some semblance of a chance of beating Hiromu Takahashi, which, as good as their matches are, and as much as Desperado beats Hiromu in a big setting like this, I don't think anybody thought that Desperado was going to win this match. And the fact that they were able to convince not just that live crowd, but a ton of viewers, and me, an extremely experienced and extremely, sort of cynical New Japan viewer, that maybe they were going to go against the grain a little bit and try something new here, is a testament to how fantastic the closing sequence of this match was. And I mean, you want to talk about elevating somebody in a loss? Like, I can't think of any better example of elevating somebody in a loss than what we saw between these two.
Do you feel New Japan is going to do something more with Desperado after this match? Because it sure seems a little bit on the bleak side, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's tough, because a lot of the homegrown New Japan juniors just don't get as much of a chance to succeed, because there are so many fantastic juniors around the world that New Japan is happy to bring in and give a shot at the title. However, I think that because of the result of this match and because of the incredible popularity and reception that Desperado has, plus obviously being a natural rival to their top junior star, I'd be stunned if he didn't win the championship at some point, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that was a genuine question before this match. Like, I wouldn't have said for sure whether or not Desperado was going to win the championship, but I could easily see Desperado holding the championship going into a Best of the Super Juniors tournament and then losing it in a big title match at Dominion or something like that. So yeah, definitely something to look forward to.
Okay, you like that match, right?
I did. I was just about to say, I think that's one of the handful of New Japan matches that I actually like.
It's a great one.
I would say more about G1 matches that I like, but I tend to have forgotten most of them because they all blend together. It's too much wrestling. Good Jesus Christ, New Japan. That's too much. It's so much wrestling.
I mean, Kay, I could force you to watch the entire New Beginnings tour. That'll be super fun. You up for some Suzuki-gun versus Bullet Club 8 times in a row?
No. Hard pass.
All right. My number 8 is my first women's match to make the list. And I will admit, I look at women's wrestling very much different than men's wrestling. It's like a different emotional set, a different mindset. Everything's different. It's just the way it is. So my first one, and I really thought about this, especially from this promotion that has the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, I have said. It's Utami Hayashishita versus Momo Watanabe, December 20th, Stardom. The Osaka, whatever it was called. They had a special name for it. You remember the special name? Osaka Dream? Was that it?
Oh, it was Osaka Dream, yes.
Osaka Dream. All right. So these two had met many times, twice previously this year, once in the 5-Star Grand Prix, and then once in New York City. Okay, 1 win, 1 draw piece before heading into this. Now, I thought about the 3 Mayu defenses, Mayu Momo from January, Mayu Shuri, Mayu Jungle Kiona. Those 3 in particular came to mind. The more I thought about this one, the more it just all culminated with it's almost like a year of Stardom culminated in this match between the new star and the best worker, if you will, and 2 faction members against each other is a classic storytelling element if there ever is one, right? So you have the new champion that dethroned the woman that put the promotion on her back during unspeakable and tough times for the promotion. Also in which Stardom that has gone through management change and new directions that aren't entirely different from their old ways, but there are new elements nonetheless. A lot is changing in the promotion. When this match got the biggest house, I believe, in the promotion's history in Osaka. I believe. Don't.
Yes, in Osaka, because they still have not topped the 5,000 plus people for the Yuzupa retirement show.
Right. Well, the exception, right? But for a straight drawing house with 2 non-freelancers, and this is where it was key to me when I thought about it. No outsiders, no gaijins, no freelancers. There's just 2 women that went out to draw a large house for a company that's growing, and it's a damn good match. The near falls could go either way. The pacing was excellent, and you had the simplistic story behind it that was able to draw me in, and that's where this match came in for me. I think it's the best example of what you want your promotion to accomplish in all elements of what you want to go in and come out. That's where I stand on this. That's my number 8.
I agree that it was one of the best Stardom matches I saw all year, and I obviously saw every major Stardom match from the year. And you want to talk about subverting or surpassing expectations. I was not somebody who had much faith at all in Hayashishita to be the champion of this promotion, especially considering the talent that they have.
Sure.
But, and you know, to be fair, I haven't seen the Micah match yet, but
Ooh, you're gonna like
those
it.
first 2 good. Those first 2 matches are 2 of the promotion's best matches that Stardom had all year. And as somebody who was not a believer, I mean, I was like praying for Momo to win this match, because I was like, I don't want Utami to be champion. She's just not ready for it. And then at the end, I was like, great. She's had 2 awesome matches. Like, I want to see what more she can do. So, yeah, great pick. One of the best Stardom matches of the year.
Yeah, and I understand a lot of people are going to have either of the Takumi Iroha matches, maybe even Julia Tam's kind of feud, pick whatever match you want. Maybe even somebody got more emotional with the Jungle Kiona story with Mayu Iwatani. I don't disagree with any of those picks. And in fact, in many ways, they could be better matches. But I can't stress enough with the other elements of wrestling that needs to be done. You can't have a freelancer or an outsider constantly come in and pop one house and then they leave and you don't hear from them for another 1, 2, 3 years, right? Along with the, at least to me, the almost inability to subvert your expectation that that freelancer is going to win the title. That was a major issue in a lot of puro wrestling. That's a huge issue, as Kay and I are experiencing on our Joshi 2010s journey. That these freelancers that are constantly coming in almost do more damage than good when it's all said and done. But at the end of the day, here Utami's the one that's going to be getting the tickets, not say Takumi Iroha. She's going to be drawing tickets for Marvelous, whether that's 50 or 100 people or whatever. Utami's job is to grow this promotion to Budokan. Just throwing that out there. Momo's job was to get, now that we know the result, get Utami over the hump to prove that she's a main event star. Mission accomplished on all fronts. That's why I put this match on here. That's very important in the long run.
Funny that you bring up Momo Utami, because that's my number 7.
Hey, all right.
So I have a very different perspective.
Almost like I'm
on
playing
this.
a drinking game here with all this.
Yeah. So my perspective is a little different on this, but not too far off. So Momo Utami, when I watched it initially, I was like, man, this match kind of feels familiar. It's good. It's great, right? I felt like it went from me being super, super down on Utami. I think when Utami won the belt off Maya, I was like, that's not a good decision. I do not agree with that. She's not ready, right? I thought it was rushing too much, and I thought this might be the one time. I thought this was the one time Rossi was going to make a bold move, and it was going to fail, because I thought Utami was just not ready. Because I thought she hadn't progressed at all since 2019. She'd been the same boring, flat Utami. No progression, just stale. And coming out of this Momo match, I still had a little bit of those reservations, and I think I voiced those on the podcast quite often. But I was willing to give her a chance. Whereas after the Mayu match, I was like, I was written her off. I was like, no, she's not going to progress because she hasn't. So she's had a whole year and a half to progress it. She hasn't. When she was given so many opportunities, she's just never changed. So why would this change anything? And I think a lot of this has to do with Momo. I think I put a lot more of this on Momo because I went back and I watched Momo and Kiona from 2019. And I was like, this is where I'm seeing this stuff from. Because that was very much a big match Momo match, right? Momo put that match together. You can tell. Every one of her big matches, she has a certain feel to them and a certain build to them. A certain way it crescendos, a certain way it builds the story. Right? This Utami match had all of that. And then it made me realize, this match, Momo was in this match probably because Utami wanted her in this match. The company wanted her in this match as well, right? Because she can build this for Utami. Utami needs the help. She needs the boost, right? Pretty sure we weren't the only ones that were doubting her going out of that Mayu match. I'm pretty sure there were other people that didn't think she was ready. I thought other people were more primed for that position than she was. And this was meant to sort of either change your opinion or at least give you a chance on it, right? And the way I think Utami just let Momo drive the match, like you have the wheel, I'll just follow your lead sort of deal. I think that helped. And I think that's, to me, why I think this match hit as well as it did. I think all the stories there, from the B driver to the outside, to the really big slam that Utami did off the top rope, to the near falls, to the Peach Sunrise getting kicked out of again, and me leading that, and Momo's frustration after that, her pushing at Daichi, like, why no, that was definitely 3. Just every bit of it, to, Momo kicking out of the spinning backbreaker slam that she does, to Momo kicking out of the elevated German that nobody had kicked out of yet. I went back and nobody's kicked out of the elevated German whenever it's been hit. A sort of final move. It's been kicked out of in draws, but it hasn't been kicked out of when there was a pinfall involved, I think was what I was thinking, what I saw. And Momo kicks right out of it. Not even a 2.9, just a 2. Kicks right out of it. Oh, okay, so that's not going to work. And then the new finisher she used, the one she used on Mayu, hey, it's Momo with it. Doesn't get it with it the first time she gets her up. Momo gets down, sort of had it scouted, But then after the wearing down of Momo, she hits her with it the second time, and that was the pin. And I think this match, and then now watching the Micah match, I'm sold on Utami finally. I think she has what it takes to, at the very least, meet my expectations for a red belt champion. I don't know if she'll exceed them, but she'll at least meet them, I think. I think this match has a lot to do with that.
All right. Yeah, the great choice. I really do love that match, and yeah, definitely the best match of Utami's career. My number 7 was the this match is, if you just want to talk about between the ropes as somebody who's just a fan of wrestling and watching a like cool ass wrestling match with a hot crowd, this is like comfort food to me. So this is Zack Sabre Jr. in his Rev Pro British Undisputed Championship match against Will Ospreay from York Hall in February.
I remember this one, yes.
Yeah, so this was interesting because it's a match that got a ton of like hype and excitement around it at the time. And then I think a lot of people, just because it was so early in the year and obviously pre-pandemic, I think it's kind of passed people by, so to speak. And I think part of it is also Ospreay's involvement in the speaking out movement and, you know, some of the stuff around him.
I think it has a lot to do with Europe's scene as a general in 2020, because there's a couple matches. There's a couple matches from WXW that really stuck out to me as well. This was one of them. I would say this was of the 3 best matches in Europe for 2020. The David Starr Bobby Guns loser leaves promotion match for the title was up there. Obviously, David Starr's involvement in speaking out, the guy who kicked it all off, actually, and the Bandito Mike Bailey 16 karat match, the one that ended with fans chucking Euro coins into the ring. That it's like the most lucha libre graps match you can imagine. It's something you would only find in WXW. So yeah, I know what you mean. I remember in this match in February, it was extremely good. It had a lot of hype, and then the mixture of the coronavirus happening and the speaking out movement really just got a sour taste in, I think, the scene as a whole. And this match in particular was just simply forgotten about, unfortunately. I'm glad you have it on your list.
Yeah, it's a great match, and there's not like a huge story about it beyond Ospreay wanting to win this championship. That it's kind of his home promotion at this point is Rev Pro, but you know, beyond that, like you were saying, I think the more interesting conversation is like Europe as a whole was just so. Yeah, I mean, nothing was ran aside from the WXW Catch Grand Prix like from March on, and so. You know, I was looking at my Wrestling Observer MVP ballot and trying to pick out who the Europe MVP was, and it took me a long time to even come up with a good name for it. So, great match, and check it out if you haven't seen it.
All right, my number 7 is Maya Yukihi versus Suzu Suzuki, Yokohama Ribbon, Ice Ribbon, August 9th. 2 years in the making of Maya's legendary title run, putting the promotion on her back. Let's not forget, heading into 2020, I was very worried about the future of Ice Ribbon. Well, in comes Suzu Suzuki, the 17-year-old prodigy, the 8+ month long journey of her essentially coming to age, beating the company Booker woman at her own game, involving a wacky storyline, and then losing to Maya twice before finally overtaking her on a big stage. The prodigy goes over. I'm sure Kay will go into much more depth as we'll get to. I know it's on his list. Don't need to beat around the bush there. Where it is the question. So, excellent booking, excellent long-term storytelling, gripping match. I think the match not only delivered on the big stage, but it also accomplished what so little promotions and champions are able to do, especially in this day and age. That's to put over a young challenger at their peak, the right time, and not to mention a long-term, multi-year champion that finally loses. I think it just that's a rarity I can't even remotely remember seeing outside of Okada losing to Omega, and we know how well that match was received. So it's my number 7. All right, Kay, what do you got? What do you got for number 6?
Number 6, and you're gonna notice a pattern here. A lot of Joshi. I have Suzu Suzuki versus Seriano from 1231 Ribbon Mania for the Ice Cross Infinity belt.
Interesting you put it on the list when it counts for 2021 on this podcast, but I'll let it slide.
Well, this isn't the Red Leaf Retrocast list now, is it?
I guess you're just gonna have to put it on your list again next year.
Hey, I'm not gonna complain about that one. So this match lived up to my expectations, even exceeded them. So I am a big fan of Suzu, and I think I've let that be known pretty adamantly. I'm also a giant fan of Seriano. I've sort of been a big fan of hers since I discovered Actress Girls through Natsumi Maki of all people. And this match, when it was booked, when she pinned Tsukasa Seriano, that is, I was like, oh man, dream match. I have high expectations for this match. So I think going into this match, my expectations being so high, I think it opened my eyes more to Suzu and how great she is. Not that they needed to be opened any more than they already were. I think this is a perfect example of Suzu showing not only can she do big matches, but she can do the grand big matches, the biggest matches on the biggest stages, no matter what. She can step up with no matter who's in the ring with her. And I think the fact that her and Ano had such perfect chemistry, every move that was done, from the reversal of Ano's sort of finisher that she pinned Tsukasa with, to reverse that and roll her up, to the Spanish fly, the standing Spanish fly that she hit so well, and I had never seen her hit before. Just everything about this match clicked at 100% from start to finish. I never felt bored, and I've rewatched this match at least 6 times.
Oh my god.
So whenever I watch a match more than twice, that means I love the match. It's probably going to go up there with one of my favorite matches of all time that I've watched, because I've watched it so many times, and that usually puts it on that list for me. I love this match. Everything about it. Suzu is a mega star. I think if she was on a bigger stage, people would be calling her the best wrestler on the planet right now. Put her above Mayu because she's that good.
Well, I mean, if she was in any other promotion, they wouldn't have put the title on her because of how young she is.
You're right. That's why Ice Ribbon's the better promotion, the best Joshi promotion.
They're not afraid to put the title on teenagers.
Oh, they're not afraid to put their belt on teenagers that are prodigies.
Yeah, Riho, Sakushi, Karumi, Suzu, they're all on the list.
Got quite the list there, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah, it's a nice ribbon special. All right, Parker.
All right. My number 6 is my sole women's match on the list. Although there were lots of women's matches in the honorable mention, we've already kind of listed 2 of them.
Sure.
And looking at other people's lists, we're going to get to some more as well. But my favorite women's match of the year was the first Iwatani versus Iroha match from February 8th in Stardom. I believe it was The Way to the Major League was the show title. And sort of in my write-up for Voices of Wrestling, I went into how I think this match is illustration of what people who just get professional wrestling can do with their talent. This was not a match that they had promoted months in advance or anything like that, because it was supposed to be Sari, of course, in that match, which she had to pull out because of an illness. And having just the guts to book a match like this, where your top star gets pummeled and beaten, and not, Mayu gets pummeled and beaten in every single match that she's in, but this was another level in terms of how brutal a title match can, or not, it was non-title, how brutal a main event match can be for Mayu. And then at the very end, it was really fun to watch, and I was like, wow, this is really good, because Iroha's one of those who's just kind of tangentially there. Like, I think a lot of people know she's good, but she just doesn't have the exposure to where people are like, she's fantastic. But again, if you watch Marvelous multi-man tags and you look at the timing on the near falls, I think a lot of people can sort of gather that. But anyway, when the closing sequence happens and Iroha just crushes Iwatani and pins her clean in the middle of the ring, it's like, wow, this is something that we can get excited about for this promotion. This is something that Stardom can come back to down the line, and we're going to get a match that's probably just as good, which we did get for this championship. And it's just a perfect illustration of what two of the best women's wrestlers in the world can do, even on hilariously short notice like they did.
Yeah, this is going to be a match, and the sequel is going to be on a lot of people's list if they do have a women's wrestling match on there. It got a lot more buzz, just simply because it is a high level wrestling match, no doubt about that. In the back of my mind, because of what we saw with Sari and Yoshiko, and it went down in a similar fashion with the outsider busting in and beating down the champion in like 10 minutes. I can't help but think that that's probably the way that this match was going to go with Mayu, and then they'd run it back very much the same way. I have that feeling. But regardless, my number 6.
I was just sort of praise them on pointing out that they had such short notice to even put this match together and how great that was for both of them.
Yeah, took some balls, no doubt. So my number 6 is Eruption versus Disaster Box. That's right, we're heading back to DDT. Kazusada Higuchi, Saki Akai, Yukio Sakaguchi versus the team of Hirata, Yoshimura, and Yuki Ueno. Now, took place on a Korakuen show on October 25th. This was, and you might say I'm cheating here, because it's the trios title plus tag title match. And I'm counting this as one.
You are not cheating here. This is absolutely, you can absolutely count this as an epic for sure.
Right. So I counted this as a 2-fall match. 2 falls, 1 match. First fall for the trios title, second match for the tag titles. And I just, this was an example of the best, almost the best pure tag match of the year, without shenanigans in the sorts. Simple story, and a physical story told. The first fall took out Ueno. New champions from Eruption, Saki Akai and Hirata hit the bricks. Saki Akai with her new shiny title. She got the trios title. She's ringside rooting on her new team, and it was just simply the challengers beating down the champions to the point where they physically could not get up. And I love the finish. This is a must-watch tag match on the year. And I know a lot of people point to, for the New Japans out there, the trios title match that took place, I believe, at a Korakuen, in which Yoshihashi won his first match ever. Never thought I'd hear myself say Yoshihashi reference on a match of the year list, but here we are. This match is way better, and you get 2 of them for one solid main event.
I'm with you. This match was absolutely, it was a great epic, fantastic, and really what established both, to me, Higuchi and Ueno as like major players going forward in DDT.
It was a very good match. It's like I said, it's probably not on my list because I don't have a DDT. But I'll get into that when I get to my number 5 pick.
Well, before you do that, Kay, why don't you just go over your 10 through 6 right quick to remind people.
All right, so at number 10, I have Arisa Nakajima versus Yoshiko from July 13th for the Beyond the Sea title. At number 9, I have Keisuke Okada versus Kaito Ishida from November 3rd for the Brave Gate title. I have Shun Skywalker at number 8 versus Eita from November 20th for the Dream Gate title. And at 7, I have Momo versus Utami for the Red Belt at December 20th. And 6 is Suzu versus Sayori from Ribbon Mania 1231 for the Ice Cross Infinity title.
All right, and what's your number 5, sir?
So my number 5, and I gotta preface this by saying, tag matches tend to, as much as I rate tag matches, if I rate them high, they tend to rate lower than singles matches for me. I guess for me, it's usually because I have a hard time getting super duper invested in tag matches to the point where, as much as I do singles matches, but I gotta preface that because my number 5 is the 10-man elimination, no disqualification unit disband match.
Oh, I'm so happy this made your list.
The RAD team of Eita, Hyo, Hip Hop Kakuta, Kaito Ishida, and SB Kento versus the Team Torimon of Dragon Kid, Genki Horiguchi, Master of the Backslide, and Masato Yoshino, and Noriki Doi, and Suzumu Yokosuka.
Don't worry, everybody mispronounces his name.
It's okay. It's okay. So from the December 20th Final Gate show. So why this isn't higher?
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. I am so happy this match made your list. For a new Dragon Gate fan made in 2020, I'll take all the credit. You're welcome.
Don't worry, I'll give you credit later. Just wait.
The fact that a match with so much storytelling throughout the promotion made your list, and not quite knowing but learning, mind you, you watching the promotion in 2020 had enough for it to make your list. All right.
Right. So this match, because I'm a sucker for storytelling, like I've continued to say, right? It would be much, much higher if I knew all the stories going in instead of learning them after the fact. I think because it's simply a testament to how great the storytelling was within the match itself and building to it on its own, that I'm able to put it so high as somebody who had no idea from the colored contact lenses, stuff that you'll probably cover, because I know it's on your list.
I don't know where you get that idea from. That's crazy.
Just call it a gut feeling. I think it's on your list somewhere. But this match was great. I think it did so much in one match. It did so much that I love, from the storytelling to the building of young stars to everything. So SB Kento eliminating like over half, I think, like over half the other team, he eliminated on his own. Eita being the first elimination, to Doi being the first elimination for Toriumon, to just everything, the crying after the match, the dead silence from the crowd that didn't feel like COVID silence. It's just like shock silence. Just everything, all the interactions in the match, the weapons being hitting on each other, and how everything played out. I loved everything that was within this match. And again, the solidifying of SB Kento and Hip Hop Kakuta as just two big stars, especially SB Kento. They are super high on him, and I think this match is going to have more storytelling for him going forward within RAD. And I love this match. It's great.
All right, Parker. Just to remind everyone, what was your 6 through 10? Where you hit your number 5 there.
Yeah, 10 was Silver, Reynolds, and Page against MJF, Santana, and Ortiz from the Brody Lee tribute show for AEW. Number 9 was Kota Ibushi versus Sonata from the New Japan G1 Climax Finals. 8 was Hiromu Takahashi versus El Desperado from the New Japan Best of the Super Juniors Finals. Number 7 was Sabre versus Ospreay from Rev Pro in February. The number 6 was Iwatani versus Iroha from Stardom in February. I just noticed that my 6 and 7 are within a week of each other. So wow. I was having a good time in wrestling at that point. All right, moving on to number 5 is, I believe, the first American match that any of us have listed. I think we've all had Japanese matches except for my one British match. But anyway, it was FTR versus the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team Championships at November's Full Gear.
Interesting. Okay, you put that match there. All right.
Yeah, so not Young Bucks versus Omega and Page, which, again, like so many of the matches we're mentioning here that didn't make my list are right there, including the Dragon Gate match that we've just talked about. But this match, for me, I thought surpassed the previous one because I thought it had better storytelling than when I say previous, I mean Omega and Page against the Young Bucks. I thought it had better storytelling, which is saying something because that match had phenomenal storytelling, and that's like the hallmark of the match. But not only that, I just thought the match was incredible. It was a spectacle. I was in awe of what was happening, where the Young Bucks are like the only wrestlers in the entire world that could pull off a lot of the stuff that they were pulling off. I mean, all the callbacks to classic tag team moves, and it wasn't just fan service either. I mean, it was these two teams competing for essentially the title of best tag team in the world. But it ended up transcending that to them wanting to compete, even if you disagree with like this qualification, for best tag team of all time, so to speak. And so I thought the match was perfectly worked, but the basic story of the match, which is that the Young Bucks are these spot monkey high flyers, and FTR are classic tag wrestlers who know how to actually like work a tag match and get the heat and everything like that. I think the genius of this match was the Young Bucks are better than FTR even in that. Like the Young Bucks are the best storytelling tag team that I can remember watching. And so when you add that to their in-ring skills, I mean, you get, in my opinion, the greatest tag team of all time. And this is probably the best match I've ever seen from the Young Bucks. Maybe Golden Lovers versus Young Bucks was better than this, but it's these two for me. Also a bit of a sentimental favorite for mine because this was the first AEW pay-per-view that I ever covered for The Observer. And
how about that?
And so being able to watch a match this good on my first show, I was like, this is awesome. I want to keep doing this forever. So a bit of a sentimental favorite there too, but I really do think this was the best tag team match I saw all year.
How appropriate. Let's turn that off.
What a mark.
Don't you raven me. All right. So, yeah, good match. Did you notice that they hit a lot of those old tag team signature moves in order from oldest to newest?
Yeah, absolutely. It was like chronological.
Chronological,
and then
there's the word.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course the big, story beat at the very end was the FTR Cash Wheeler making fun of the Bucks high flying, deciding screw it, I'm going to go for a springboard dive, being super kicked out of midair and being pinned 1, 2, 3. And so just a perfect match layout. Like the Daily's Place was going crazy for this match more than Moxley versus Omega and more than Page versus Omega, more than pretty much any match I can remember seeing post-pandemic at Daily's Place. So yeah, my favorite American match of the year too, not just my favorite tag match.
Right. My number 10, to remind everybody, was Masato Tanaka Tetsuya Endo, DDT, June 7th. Number 9, Naruki Doi versus Eita, August 2nd from Dragon Gate. Number 8, Utami versus Momo, December 20th, Stardom. Number 7, Maya Yuki versus Suzu Suzuki, August 9th, Ice Ribbon. And number 6, Eruption versus Disaster Box, double title match, August 25th from DDT. And I'm actually hitting for my number 5, my one and only New Japan match that made my top 10. This was really tough because when I put it all together and what I enjoy as a fan, I think in-ring, New Japan is the best promotion on the planet. Bar none, no debate. However, 2020 was a different year. But where New Japan was able to hit the highest of highs was during this Okada Tetsuya Naito match at this thing called Wrestle Kingdom. Do I really need to go into detail on why this match is good?
I would say no, because I'll be adding my own thoughts potentially later on this match. I'll just leave it at that.
I will just say it is a Naito got his moment. There you go. All right, Kay, give me your number 4.
Number 4. So I want to preface two things going into my number 4. I agonized over whether I wanted to put that unit disband match over this match or not, and
Agonized?
I think
Are you okay?
the reason why, because the unit disband match has so much in it that I like. But I came to the conclusion that I didn't know a lot of the story stuff, the bigger story stuff, until after the match. And I feel like that sort of affects how I should be rating it, as opposed to rating it higher because I know it now after the fact, because I haven't rewatched the match since now knowing all of that stuff. So it's not like I go into it with that knowledge again.
Oh, you should rewatch it with the English commentary. It's finally up.
Okay, cool. I will definitely do that. So my number 4 is Suzu versus Sakushi from September 20th Ice Cross Infinity title match.
Interesting.
I think there's something I noticed about my list compared to your guys' list is I think I hold women's wrestling a lot higher. I think I enjoy it a lot more. And I think this match right here sort of personifies why I enjoy it so much more. The emotions in the match, the storytelling going into it was pretty basic. It was just Sakushi challenging for the first time since 2018 for the Ice Cross Infinity belt. Sakushi wanting to have her story, and then she's Suzu's first defense, and her telling Suzu, I'll make sure you have no defenses. I'm gonna win this belt. I'm gonna finally culminate my story. Tsukasa patting her on the back at the end of their tag match. I don't know if anyone noticed that. She patted her on the back after one of their multi-person tag matches after the fact. So it's almost like it's kind of like you know you're rising up, you're gonna do it finally, and she fails. Prodigy was too much, but she scraps and she fights, and just the emotion on Sakushi's face. And Suzu just kind of looking like the champion, just firing up, and she's not really being emotional, but Sakushi, her face is kind of, you can see the agony on her face when she can't get the near falls. Her yelling and trying to pump herself up as she's further in the match and can't seal the deal. And I think women's wrestling for me hits a different emotional level. And so I think when there's emotion in it, I end up getting more invested. As much as the fact that I love Sakushi and I'm such a big fan of her and her story going out of her re-debut after the Kagetsu incident, and I think this match hit what it needed to for me. And
Alleged
I feel like
Kagetsu incident.
yes, alleged. She did no such thing. You can't prove it. I think
People walk into knives all the time.
Hey, listen, Kagetsu. What's to say Kagetsu didn't stab herself, huh?
Wow.
Listen, but this match was very good, and it was what I wanted.
Well,
I'm just saying. Listen, there's no proof that she did anything.
I'm sorry.
well, Kay, I have to say that I'm so glad that you have this match so high on your list, because this was my favorite match of Ice Ribbon all year. And for a year as good as Ice Ribbon had, I mean, that's saying something, obviously. So great choice. Great match.
Oh yeah, no, I loved it, especially because
Glorious
I'm so invested in Sakushi that my investment in this match, and I'm just a big fan of Suzu too. So I feel like it hit all the right buttons for me, and it clicked on all the cylinders, and I absolutely love this match.
Hey, that's why
Sure.
we're all here, right? That's why we like this wrestling thing.
Exactly.
My
number-
on Twitter.
I will
Aside
say
from that.
I will say the Hiragi Kurumi Maya defense very much had that same connection with me and what I like and what I drive for. Why I held that as kind of a very high-end match this year in women's wrestling and wrestling in general. I really like that Kurumi match. So
I just feel like this match is special to me. It's a special match. Like you just said, your sentimental match. I think this is mine because I'm so invested in Sakushi, and seeing her crying at the end really got to me.
well, I mean, if you would have just consoled her, maybe things would have worked out.
If I was in Japan, I would have. Damn it.
All right, number 4.
All right. My number 4 was, I would say it's fairly similar to the York Hall, the Rev Pro Sabre and Osprey match, a match where just two fantastic wrestlers doing from bell to bell great things with the crowd being completely invested in every single thing that they do. This one went another level for me for 2 reasons. And it was Tetsuya Naito versus Hiroshi Tanahashi in their Block B G1 match from September 20th. This match went, above and beyond for me for 2 reasons. One, it's the only match post-pandemic in Japan specifically that I genuinely think you could show it to a fan who didn't know that all these restrictions were in place. They may not perceive a thing. And the crowd was just out of their minds for this match. I mean, just genuinely the physical exertion that this crowd was putting out there, like stomping and clapping as hard as they can to make the building shake without being able to open their mouths.
Did you say stomping in a Japanese fan arena?
I know, crazy, right?
It's almost like that. That's the universal term for this match is over.
Yeah, this match slaps is a good translation there if you don't speak Japanese. No, I mean just from start to finish. I mean, you get the champion, you get the ace of the promotion, the sort of beloved champion, former, obviously current, but obviously former as well, superstar in Tanahashi. It's that opening night. So the main event of the opening block nights is almost always a fantastic match. So there was that big expectation around it too, between maybe the 2 top guys in the block as well. And then I think the other thing that sent it over the edge for me was there was a block A that included Okada, Ibushi, Osprey, Ishii, Shingo, Jay White, and even people like Taichi was great. Jeff Cobb was fantastic, and there was of course Yujiro. But I mean, the talent that you list in that block is out of this world. Maybe the single best block of tournament talent that I've ever seen. And for Naito and Tanahashi, a B block match to create the best match of the entire tournament, I think should be recognized in my eyes. So my favorite New Japan post-pandemic match by far, and just a pure examination of what you can get with a crowd that's fully invested, even one that can't open their mouths.
I also thought that was the best match of the G1, actually. That one just clicked. It felt like a turning back the clock match, which really hit well with me.
Yeah, it was just fantastic, and the matchup was super protected. I think people don't realize that these guys hadn't wrestled in 3 years, which between New Japan main eventers, yeah, that doesn't happen that often. I mean, people usually wrestle each other between the G1 and title matches at least once every 2 years. At the very least. And so for this matchup to be so protected like that, and for them to just go out and knock it out of the park, I think makes it one of the best matches I saw all year.
All right, boys, my number 4 should come as no surprise. You should have expected this. It is Hangman Page, Kenny Omega versus Dem Young Bucks, Revolution AEW, February 29th. And from this point forward, I will be reading my submissions to Voices of Wrestling. So get your bodies ready for my buttery voice to give you a literary rendition, and keep your pants on. Barely months into their TV era for the startup t-shirt company, AEW made a fantastic story molding together their time in New Japan Ring of Honor into AEW Pay-Per-View Revolution. Filled with excellent storytelling, callbacks across the wrestlers' past, and specifically, what pulled it all together was the role of one Hangman Page. What and how Page's moves, the role played was the true focal point of the story. Tag team wrestling outside of Joshi, Dragon Gate, and long past the days of AJPW glory days. AEW on this night proved that tag team wrestling and stories are important as the main event. Plus, this match was just plain awesome. Grab that beer, Hangman, and celebrate your victory. Number 4 on JD's submission for Voices of Wrestling.
Lovely. Great write-up.
It gets better from there,
match.
believe me. I thought it was look, when you got a startup company and it's your second pay-per-view off of television, and you come out with this kind of notch on your belt, that's a big deal. And if I am convinced to this day that if the coronavirus did not shut down the world the way it did, this was gonna be the kicking off point. Was this match and this pay-per-view for AEW going forward? And look at the kind of upward momentum this promotion has not just overcome, but also increased over the course of 2020, despite what's happened. It all began with this match, and I think from years down the line, assuming that this promotion is going to be a successful t-shirt company, we're going to look back at this match as that kickoff point.
I think it's a pretty good t-shirt company.
Pretty okay. It's pretty okay.
Pretty decent. So I guess it's my number 3 time. So at number 3, I have a match that I feel like the crowd, and rewatching it, especially nowadays, after the entire year has gone by, the hot crowd is what buys me into it. On top of it being just a fantastic match, I have Mayu Iwatani versus Momo Watanabe for the red belt at the January 19th 9th anniversary show. I think this was a match that solidified 3 things for me. 1, Mayu versus Momo could never have a mad match. Never, ever. You could break both their legs. They probably still have a 5-star match. Just fully convinced at this point. Convinced at this point that they could do that. Number 2, it was a start of the Bushi Road era, and I think this was the kicking off point. I think it's not a coincidence that they started the year and bookended the year with big Momo matches. It's obvious that they see a lot in her and know that she could pull the best matches out of anybody. I still think she's the best wrestler on the roster, period. For that fact alone, I think. But this match, the crowd. So I think we've all discussed, or at least me and you have discussed, JD, how Stardom has a lack of female audience. I mean, they've got that now, right? But Joshi in general seems to lack an overall female audience, save for a few promotions, your Marvelouses, your Ice Ribbons. And now I guess Stardom getting a female audience as well, and sometimes NJPW.
We have mentioned such statistical facts, yes. Outside of the Dragon Gate sexy boys and the Bishonen DDT, yes, of course. Go on.
Yes. So the things that stood out to me in this match, and still stand out to me even now, and I think will be a much more memorable portion of this match for me, isn't the match itself entirely, even though it's a fantastic match. It's the female chants, the Mayu, the Momo. Both of them got tons of female chants. They were both over with women. It was like, oh, first time I've heard women chanting for anything since Io Shirai. And she had just one person yelling her name all the time. One Io Shirai fan that we all knew. One female one from the crowd that you would hear all the time. Ever since then, we haven't had any of that. And to hear both of them get that was, to me, a big deal for them as a company. On top of the match just being excellent. Again, B driver, the kick out of the Peach Sunrise, leading me to continue to believe that Momo is going to have a new finisher when she finally wins the red belt, to just Mayu hitting the dragon suplex and Momo almost rolling out of it. She didn't roll out of it. She didn't kick out of it, but she almost rolled out of it. If you notice, her shoulders got kind of up right at 3, sort of showing that she's not fully put down yet. And if you go back and watch their wipeout match, I believe Momo kicks out of the 2-step dragon. So that was a big deal there. Just everything, the callbacks to that match alone, the Momo going for the Super Peach Sunrise off the second rope that Mayu scouted and got out of, to the wicked B driver. This match was fantastic. As big match Momo and big match Mayu written all over it. The two best wrestlers in this company wrestling each other. It can't get any better than this.
Yeah, I think it's funny that you mention the two best wrestlers in a company facing off with each other, because that's exactly the angle that I was going to take with my number 3, which is from Noah, which is Go Shiozaki defending the GHC Heavyweight Championship against Katsuhiko Nakajima. And similar to Mayu versus Momo, we get the champion, who I think most people, even though you obviously think Momo is just the best worker in the company, like most people would say Mayu and most people would say Go are the best wrestlers in their respective promotions. And I think most people would say that Nakajima and Momo are in turn the 2 second best wrestlers in their respective promotions. The result was the exact same. It was an epic match in both of those matches, with the champion like barely escaping, even though a lot of people really wanted a title change in both of those matches. So yeah, I think they're both like nice little reflections of each other. In terms of specifically the Noah match, I mean, this is my top 3 are the 3 matches that I rated 5 stars on the year. So these are 5-star matches going forward for me. And so yeah, number 3, Katsuhiko Nakajima challenging for Go Shiozaki for the heavyweight title in November. And the thing about this match was just how brutal it was. I mean, brutal seems like such an understatement compared to what happened. I mean, this was like some horrifying stuff in this match, and a really remarkable performance from both men. And then I think a lot of the appeal of someone like Hiroshi Tanahashi over the last few years is how he looks beaten up and broken down, but you know, he just gets the crowd behind him, and he just gets it where he see him win because he's the best. And I think Shiozaki got to that level this year in terms of Noah. A lot of people knew he was a really good wrestler for a long time for Shiozaki, but this was the year that he really became entrenched in a lot of people's minds, including mine, as one of the best wrestlers that we have out there. So yeah, Shiozaki versus Nakajima, my number 3 match of the year, 5 stars.
Crazy, considering Shiozaki might be 10 years too late on that, but that's more on Noah more than him. And the same could be said for
Yeah.
Nakajima, since he's been kicking around since he was 16 years old in, 2003?
Yeah, he's been around forever. It's crazy how long he's been around and he's still so young. But yeah, two of the best that they have. And I didn't even mention, of course, the story, which is that they were tag team champions all year until they lost him, and Nakajima turned on him and won the N1, which is Noah's equivalent of the G1. And this was a huge title challenge that I think most people thought Nakajima was going to win.
Oh, I was included in that.
escaped.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, absolutely.
In hindsight, I think he should have won.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what goes on, but
we know what's going to happen. Come on, Parker.
I kind of rate this match as similar to Okada versus Shibata. Yes, we do know what's going to happen, by the way. But I kind of rate
champion.
Exactly. I kind of rate that match as similar to, if Shiozaki is similar to Okada's crazy run right now as champion, I think this Nakajima Shiozaki match is like Okada Shibata. Just how unbelievably brutal it was between the two, how following an epic performance, which I will get to later, the champion comes right back, runs it back with a match just as good, and establishes himself as maybe the best in the world.
Okay, you saw that Noah match. I believe it was the only one you watched of the year.
Yes, and I was bored for the first half of it until they actually started doing stuff, walking around the outside of the ring for 5 to 10 minutes.
That's not an uncommon sentiment for Noah main events at this point. But
no, do not sell me on Noah, not at all.
For me, I'm in it at this point. You can't pull me out.
All right, Muno title run might pull you out though.
All right, my number 3 is going to throw you guys for a loop, and I think it's going to throw a lot of people for a loop. It shouldn't come as a surprise if you listen to this podcast long term, but I am a fan of the Lucha Libre style. I'm a fan of the athleticism. I am a fan of the flippy shit, might say. But I'm also a fan of storytelling. Number 3 is Aereo versus Viano 3 Jr. March 1st, AAA. This is a mask versus mask match. I don't know how more pure Lucha Libre of a stipulation do you need, but here we are. Oh my god. Lucha Libre as a whole in 2020 didn't have much, let's be honest. However, what Lucha Libre is strong at is familia and their identities. 2 out of 3 falls, mask versus mask. 2 years in the making for this feud. Shocker. Another long-term story with a payoff in my top 10. Makes this match special is not just knowing the history of Viano 3, but knowing the usual structure of Lucha Libre. Each fall in this match told a story on its own, from the Atlantis submission to the tope that occurred creating blood. Violence ensues all over the arena, doing nonsense lucha spots, from weaponry to scaffold dives. There is a crazy dive to the outside onto a trash bin with chairs in this match. They do not... They will pull out all the stops to keep their mask and identity. And in Viano 3's case, family. Aereo 3 was in his hometown, by the way. In any setting other than this one, this would be the worst of finishes this match had. However, on this night, the villain, Viano 3, played a fucking villain and lived up to his family name. Easily the best pure Lucha Libre match I can remember seeing in decades. This was incredible storytelling on a Lucha Libre level. This was captivating. And if you've watched 2 out of 3 falls Lucha Libre matches, you're just like, all right, 1 fall, there we go. 2 fall, okay, now we're at the lightning round. This was not that. Everything mattered. Everything told a story. It was pure wrestling. I adored this. You can find this match on YouTube. I highly, highly recommend it. And Viano 3 is in his early 20s, a future superstar in the making. There's my match there.
So, JD, this was also my Mexican match of the year, and I'm so glad that you have this on your list, because when I was trying to determine what I wanted for my number 10 spot, my sort of sentimental favorite, it was between the Dark Order, the Brody Lee tribute match, and this match. I echo every single thing you said there. This match was unbelievable. Like, it's in this gymnasium that looks like it could be a school gymnasium, but like 5 times as big. It's just a one of a kind setting and environment, and
Oh, it looks like a dump.
said, like, yeah, it's like this is, but yeah, and there's like the wacky people walking around with like concessions and toys and stuff, and it doesn't feel like people are paying attention that much early on, and then it builds and builds, and all of a sudden you look up and 25 minutes have passed and you're like, what? How is that possible? And everybody's into it, and somebody's going to lose his damn mask after they've been feuding for literally years. And yeah, I echo everything you said about that match. This is one of the best matches I saw all year. Barely missing my top 10.
All right, Mr. K.
All right, my number 2 is I'm going to pat you on the back a little bit as well in this, JD. So I'm pretty sure you'll be happy with that. It's Eita versus Doi.
Hell yeah!
August 2nd, Dream Gate title match. This is my very first Dragon Gate match I'd ever watched. And I credit my liking this match to you, JD, for breaking down the story that I had no idea about going into this match, which elevated this match because you broke it down to me as it was starting. As the match was starting, you were giving me the rundown of the story. So I got to hear you give it to me as I was seeing the build up and payoff to most of it. The work on the head, Doi to Eita working on his head to get his his muscular bomb over. Eita working on the arm. Everything from Eita refusing the RAD help and that causing him to win, which I think in hindsight has actually elevated this match even more, knowing where that story ends up. How great I think that went, where it goes from the confident Eita to the not so confident Eita. Right? Even after just one defense, maybe he's not so confident anymore in his abilities, and that's why he ends up losing the belt to Shun. Just everything about this match, the big feel about it, the crowd gasping. This match was great. The tossing, the Doi 5 at the outside, Jesus Christ. I think that I popped so hard for that moment. I think if you remember, I went, holy shit. I just yelled holy shit because he flung him on the outside. It was crazy. Like, oh, that's a crazy bump to be taken on his head too. Just everything, the build up, the constant going back to the arm, I think on Eita's part was really good. He would do a few moves here and there, but always go back to the arm. He worked the arm the entire match. And Doi sold the arm the entire match. Even going for a lariat with the arm and not being able to actually hit him properly with it was great. Everything about this match clicked, and this match single-handedly made me a fan of Dragon Gate, which is why the only male matches you're seeing on this list are Dragon Gate, because I'm super invested. Whereas I'm not as invested in DDT, and I'm certainly not as invested in New Japan right now.
All right, Parker.
I've already echoed my thoughts on that great match as well. I'm staying in Noah for my number 2, and we are going with, for me, this was the match that really put Shiozaki on the map for me as like, this is a Wrestler of the Year candidate. He had a great match where he won the title against Kiyomiya. I think his first few defenses were just okay. A lot of people really liked the Fujita match because it was extremely unique, but not really for me a lot of the time.
Not for me either, that's for sure.
Yeah. So this match, however, Shiozaki versus Kino, August 10th at Noah, in a unification match for the heavyweight title and the national title, was to me maybe the greatest set of athletic performances I've seen in any match in history, outside of maybe the Okada Omega series. In terms of pure athletic performance, this is to me as good as wrestling gets. I mentioned in my write-up the setting for this sounds impossible because it's a 60-minute draw There's no finish. It's in a pandemic setting. Fans are not allowed to clap, or they're not allowed to make noise. They're allowed to clap. It's in a cavernous building that's not even close to being full. And it's a unification match. So going in, people were unsure that we were actually going to get a finish and lose a championship here, essentially. With all that being said, I thought this was the most unique wrestling environment I saw all year. Kino was killing Shiozaki with shoot kicks to the head, where you could just see his head jerk from the impact. He was not selling these kicks. I mean, he was kicking him as hard as he could, genuinely.
Sounds like Noah.
Yeah, but extended over a half hour. There was, and then on the flip side, Shiozaki would come back right around and just chop the life out of Kino and kill him with these lariats that it generally feels like he's getting the bottom of his elbow, the point of his elbow, or like his upper arm right on Kino's head, like as he's knocking him down. It built and built, and I was never bored for a second during a 60-minute match, which I can't even say about Okada Omega. And so in addition to that, there was one spot where Kino lands this top rope double foot stomp on the floor. He sticks the landing. It's like a Joshi double stomp. He just crushes him. I genuinely don't know how Shiozaki didn't break ribs or have internal organ damage after that spot. It just blew my mind when I saw it. And for somebody, I don't know if you guys feel the same way. For people who watch a lot of wrestling, I don't get my mind blown by what I see very often. And by the time the match was over, my jaw was hanging open. I was like, what did I just watch for 60 minutes? And then at the very end, I was like, well, there wasn't a finish, and I usually don't like that. And so I was kind of debating whether 4 3/4 or 5 was the way to go for the star rating. And a common refrain in wrestling is, if you have to think about it, then it's not 5 stars. And then I watched the post-match promo where Shiozaki's refrain all year had been, I am Noah. I am Pro Wrestling Noah. And because of the draw, he couldn't say that. So instead, he turns around and says, we are Noah, because he did not win this match, even though he did retain his World Heavyweight Championship. And I think the storytelling of that is so simple, but it's absolutely beautiful. And for those reasons, Shiozaki and Kino is my number 2 match of the year. One of the best matches I saw all year.
Alrighty. I will not agree with any of that, but that's my own thoughts. That's for a different conversation. I have more reservations about Noah with the match than the match itself, and that's what held me back from.
Noah's good Ambien.
Good Ambien. I wouldn't go that far. It has the Cliff Notes version is it suffered from the Noah main event trope, and then booking a double title match. You knew, at least I kind of already knew going in, that it wasn't going to have a finish, and it didn't. So to me, it didn't matter. I ended up turning the match off, as a matter of fact.
Wow.
I didn't like it that much.
And when it got to 40 minutes or something, in any time you have a match that goes to 40 minutes, right? You're okay, I pretty much know where this is going to go. Although Noah did do their best to establish that going 40 plus minutes does not mean that they're going to a 60-minute draw this year. However, so obviously it was in the back of, obviously I was thinking, okay, this is probably what's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, obviously it stuck, it kept me fully invested throughout the entire 60 minutes, which again, I don't know if I can say that about any 60-minute match I've ever seen.
It sounds like it hit you at the right place, the right time, which is what a number of these matches did for me as well. So I can't argue with that sentiment one bit. My number 2 is my top-ranked Joshi match of the year, and I actually thought of this as a potential number 1. But in the end, the promotion storytelling, there's a little spoiler there, went over the competitor storytelling. So number 2 is Yuka Sakazaki versus Mizuki, November 7th, Tokyo Joshi Pro. Wrestle Princess. emotion. There's just a sense in women's wrestling that brings about a different set of emotions. Specifically in Joshi, or at least in this current climate, mind you, there's a sense of togetherness and yet a strong sense of competition to get stronger. Yes, I do watch a lot of retro wrestling, both men and women going as far back as the late 70s. Different emotional cues happen compared to what the promotion Tokyo Joshi Pro currently brings. This is a match based on a tag team over 1 year in the making, fighting each other for one thing: the top title in the company, currently held by Yuka at this juncture. Mizuki earned this chance by winning for the second year in a row, mind you, the Princess Cup, their version of the New Japan Cup, King of the Ring, whatever you want to call it. Longtime friends, tag partners, going their temporary separate ways to just get to the top. Then it begins. Early on, Yuka has a costume malfunction. Cut back to the past, where a champion was in this similar situation. Name was Shoko. Woman's top comes off. Panic ensues. Panic did not happen here. Yuka and Mizuki grapple for advantage, and Yuka locks up Mizuki and fixes her top. What a brilliant start with something that could have went oh so wrong. Limb work, high flying, selling goes on with the right emotional connection and near falls continuing all the way to the end. You can't ask for much more in a wrestling match. Yuka's selling is very unique, along with her movements in the ring. Call me crazy if you want, but she moves as unique as Keiji Muto. Yuka sold her ribs with subtle movements, slow controlled breathing while grabbing her side, and continued on controlled and collected. I can't think of many other wrestlers I've ever seen that does these things. Meanwhile, Mizuki had her leg to worry about, risking it all to win the big one on the promotion's biggest stage at their biggest event to date. In the end, Yuka hits the springboard 450 to win and retain, and immediately emotion hits over the crowd as you can see people weeping along with the wrestlers. Miyu Yamashita hits ringside crying for her friends, Yuka crying towards her friend she had to beat, and Mizuki crying that she lost the good fight. It's okay for friends to fight to be the best and still be friends afterwards. What a concept. And best of all, knowing that you made yourselves and the promotion as a whole better that night. What a match and a feather on the cap and an emotional night for the company as a whole and the wrestlers involved.
It was a great write-up, and
done.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the. So this to me, while it didn't make my match of the year or anything, it was to me without a doubt the best match in promotion history, and a promotion for a lot of people, including me, that has struggled to sort of win a lot of wrestling fans over just in terms of the in-ring product.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm one of those people.
To create something like this. And not only that, I think your point about the wardrobe malfunction is like what set that apart, because I was watching it and I was like, oh my God, how are they going to get out of this? And they did, as if nothing happened. And the sign of true professionals, I mean, for my money, 2 of the 3 best workers in the company, and the best match in company history. And so, I echo everything you said there. It was a really fantastic emotional display between 2 people who really clearly want to establish themselves as not just cute, fun, easygoing entertainment, but genuine pro wrestlers.
I think with that match, I think when you mentioned the wardrobe function, why that hit me personally, I think I pointed that out to you about the Shoko one, because that had happened a month prior. Just the month prior on a small show. I forget who she was facing, but it was just a month prior. Shoko had it. And then the problem with that match was that was what everyone focused on because she made such a big deal about it, and it kept happening to where she kept freaking out and couldn't fix it. And it was very much a thing she was constantly paying attention to throughout the match. Whereas Yuka was calm, collected, and fixed it. And I think the different attitude the 2 took, I think, shows the different mindset. And makes me really hope that again Shoko could pull what little she needs left together to get another title run and get herself back with that confidence that I know she has. But that match, it's not like I said at this point, it's not on my list. I think
Actually,
my
shocked
idea
it's not on your list, Kay.
there's a reason for that. I think when I thought about, because when I went through to decide what number one was, I had the mindset of if it's not number one, it can't be on the list because I would not want to put it any lower. I would not want to put it lower. It was the battle of the 1A, 1B, 1C, right, for me. And I rewatched that match 4 times. I rewatched my
10?
number one match.
Oh my god, now I know why it wasn't on your list.
I rewatched
Doesn't
my
make double digits,
I
forget it, kick it to the curb.
Funny you say that. I watched my number one match 10 times because I have it on DVD now. And then I watched another match that I don't have on this list as well. I watched that several times from Actress Girls, a match that I thought was very underrated. And I couldn't put those two at number one, so I didn't want to put them on the list at all. I was like, if you're not number one, I don't want to put you on the list because I don't think I could put you any lower than any of these other wrestling matches. I didn't want to bog my list out with a lot of Joshi too. I wanted to at least be fair and spread some of it up. So I thought that was another mindset. If we're done, can I go with my number one?
Go for it.
Okay, my number one, shocking absolutely nobody, Mayuhiki versus Suzu Suzuki, the August 9th Ice Cross Infinity title match at the final Yokohama Buntai show. What could I say about this match I haven't already said? I love this match. I've watched it 10 times. Funny that you brought that number up. I have it on DVD. I've watched it 10 times. I love this match. This match and the Momo Kiona 2019 White Belt match are my 2 favorite matches of all time. I've watched those matches more times over and have not ever been bored of them. I pop for the same spots and I love the entire match. And when I watched this live, I think I've said this before, I yelled, I was emotional at 6 a.m, half awake after waiting for a long hour intermission after that death match cleanup. I was tired and have as much emotion rise out of me and to be exhausted, physically exhausted after the match. Says a lot for this match and how well it got me and hooked me in. Storytelling going in, the Suzu, the prodigy, trying to dethrone the 2-year dominant champion. You brought up that good point, JD. When does this ever happen? Well, in Joshi, it doesn't happen anymore.
No.
It hasn't happened since the 80s. We've not had this sort of build to a champion dominating for so long and getting dethroned by the next young up-and-comer since Chigusa Nagayo. And I think...
What are you talking about? Chigusa retired with the title.
I'm talking about Chigusa Nagayo winning the title. I think...
Okay, winning the title.
Right. I think this right here is the culmination of not only a new era in Ice Ribbon, but for Ice Ribbon to have the balls put the belt on someone at that point who wasn't even 18 yet. She was 17 in this match. 17, not even a year and a half in yet either, because she debuted at Ribbon Mania. So
right.
she wasn't even she was not even a full year and a half in and give the belt to her. No companies do that. But Dragon Gate hasn't done that, I don't think.
Well, I mean,
No
they came pretty damn close to some sort of equivalent. But yeah,
Sure. They come close
yeah,
to
they're
it.
not giving the Dreamgate title to SB Kento.
And when I look at the landscape of the Joshi scene right now, and I look at all the top champions, you got a lot of old people, and you got a lot of people who've been there for a couple years. And
Are you saying Mayumi Ozaki is old? Is that what I'm hearing here? I feel like that's what you're saying.
She's not old. She's ancient. It's a bit different with her. She's ancient.
All right, as long as you respect.
No respect. But I think when you look at all the companies and what champion feels like a star, Suzu. Even Utami doesn't really feel like that level of star that Suzu feels like yet.
Have you seen her
That's why I
Rose?
feel like.
You take that.
I mean,
back.
I've seen the Rose, but have you seen Suzu's ninja robe? I thought I gotta put that one a little bit above that, just a bit. I think Suzu, and then just hearing her talk and the interview that Eric did on the Joshi Pod, she comes off like such a down-to-earth, likable person. I called her like a shonen protagonist from a shonen anime because Jesus Christ, she's like running late for school, doesn't do good in class, but all these big dreams, losing belts on trains, and she's something else. She's quite the character. For a 17-year-old at this point to have that much responsibility thrust upon her to handle it. I said the aftermath of some of these matches sort of also helps me, like the sort of in and out of the ring, both before and after. Also ranks pretty highly when it comes to me ranking matches, and Suzu being able to handle. Went to interviews almost the day after she was doing interviews with Shoot Pro and all these other magazines and outlets. It was even on a TV show on Samurai TV the next day. And she handles herself with such poise and handles herself like a veteran, an adult. She was still 17, and by Japan standards, she's not even an adult yet. She's 18. They've got something special with her, and I look at the scene as a whole, and I'm like, man, this Ribbon got everybody played, and I think this is right here. This match proved that.
All right, Parker, bring us home.
All right. My number one match of the year is a match that's already been mentioned on this podcast. It is the main event of night 2 of 2020's Wrestle Kingdom 14. It is Kazuchika Okada defending both championships against Tetsuya Naito. To me, this is as good as it gets for wrestling. It is a combination of pristine, perfect work with a little bit of the spectacular sprinkled in. It is the biggest possible stage imaginable, like genuinely the biggest possible stage imaginable in wrestling. It is 2 of the best wrestlers of the generation, the 2 top stars of the company of this generation. Is for not just 1, but 2, probably the 2 most important modern belts in Japanese wrestling in terms of the heavyweight and intercontinental championships. And it's also a match where I've never seen crowd investment quite like a match like this. At least I shouldn't say never, because I've seen 90s Tokyo Dome matches that have had crowd investment like this. I have not seen a
You're not
modern
chucking tatami
era...
mats into the ring and burying people.
Right. Right. I have not seen a modern wrestling match that the fans were more into than Okada versus Naito. It's the culmination of a story. Like it's not some crazy story, but it's a story that everybody knows and can kind of identify with. A guy who was pushed really hard earlier in his career that people really didn't take to, went away for a long time, as people do in Japanese wrestling. They go away on some kind of excursion, comes back, completely reinvented himself, and all of a sudden is the most popular guy in the company. He can never, aside from that one sort of heelish reign, can never really establish himself as the top champion of the company. And not only that, he had his chance already 2 years prior at Wrestle Kingdom. People thought that was the time, and people were like, well, I guess if he's not winning it then I guess he's never winning it. That was like a genuine thought that people had, by the way, at the time, which I kind of thought was absurd. But
oh yeah, there's a lot of hipster New Japan fans out there that even with this victory, they go, should have happened 2 years ago. Doesn't mean as much now.
Absolutely. Right. So I can think of one hipster New Japan fan in particular. But anyway, it's as good as wrestling gets for me. It was so much fun. I wanted Naito to win, and Okada is like my favorite wrestler of all time, and I was begging for Naito to win. And so to make it happen, for him to kick out of the spinning tombstone Rainmaker combination to hitting the Stardust press that lost him the match 2 years prior, and hitting it picture perfect, by the way, to him finally landing that final Destino. And the Destino is such an interesting finisher because he completely fucks it up like 1 out of every 5 or 6 tries. It's usually based on who's the underneath on him, but still it's like he easily could have messed up one of those Destino tries and it would have looked terrible.
Well, that's why he always needs more than one.
Yeah, exactly. He completely nailed it, and he won the match, and he left as champion. And I didn't mind the Kento run in because we ended up getting that coronation after Summer Struggle, where he was just able to be Naito with the title. And for those reasons, best match I saw in 2020.
Alrighty, I will finish this out with my match of the year, and without question, a little bit of question, but without question nonetheless. RED versus Team Torimon, unit disbandment match, final gate from Dragon Gate, December 20th. When a wrestling fan gets fully invested into a promotion and fully into the story, be it a 20-year plus long background, to even simple heel versus face dynamics, it becomes something truly special. Not to mention, this could be one of the most fascinating cases of long-term booking on decades scale of storytelling to the one-year storytelling of heel RED versus the veterans Torimon. Every step of the way in this match had so many callbacks across Dragon Gate generations that you as a fan being invested get the payoff right then and there, from Yoshino's blue contacts to the weapon choices each person used in the match. The best part, the match capitalizes on Dragon Gate's strongest story coming out of 2020. Its pushing of young talent. The top talents of Eita from RED and Naruki Doi Torimon, both former Dreamgate champions in 2020, go out first respectively for their teams. One by one, members fell, but more particularly, Torimon fell to the rookies on RED. Kikuta eliminated Yoshino, the most protected guy in Dragon Gate, and the rest fell to SB Kento at a mere 20 years old. The ending stretch of Dragon Kid's mask being ripped, reminiscent of another match from a certain promotion, exposing the prize student of Torimon's founder, Ultimo Dragon, grasping on until the end, was emotional and chair-gripping to me. As Dragon Kid tapped to the SB shooter, which also brought very much emotions to me of just the guy going by the Heartbreak Kid moniker with Bret Hart's sharpshooter as a finisher. Anyways, a hush came over the crowd. In the COVID era, as us wrestling fans long for screaming, yelling, wild cheers, this seemingly death-like reaction that came over the arena like a miasma fog as Team Torimon realized their loss. And fate was something that even COVID couldn't stop from happening. This truly was a perfect match. Not to mention Kness carrying Dragon Kid, his long rival, out of the arena. What a match. What investment. There's 1,000 things I missed from that match, just from the year-long storytelling to decades along, like I mentioned. This was easily my match of the year, and coming mere days before the end of the year. Kudos to Dragon Gate. And kudos to fucking 10 people involved. Crazy. That's my match of the year. Parker, final thoughts.
I mean, that on that specifically, I mean, I'm with you. It was a fantastic match. It was my Dragon Gate match of the year as well. I'm just more of a new fan, and so the storytelling, it just wouldn't have hit with me like for a lot of people. I guess the Sonata versus Ibushi storytelling didn't hit, and yet even knowing that, only having been a fan since about Shingo left, because I was impressed with him in New Japan, and I was like, okay, if Dragon Gate has this guy, maybe I should check this promotion out. Even with that, the fact that it was able to accomplish what it did and put on like fantastic match like that, not only seemingly wrapped up one story but opened up a million possibilities for the future, while also being a fantastic wrestling contest in and of itself, I think is really something to be admired. But I was surprised how many post-pandemic matches I ended up having on my list. And I don't know if you guys felt the same way, because like I said, the crowd investment is really what drives a great match for me. But it was a great year for wrestling, and hopefully we get some fans back in 2021 and we even more great matches.
I just realized that 2 matches on my top 10 happened on the same day. How about that?
Yeah, I think the reason why the post-pandemic matches, at least the ones that I've picked, a lot of especially the top 5, the reason why those sort of hit different, it was because I had emotional investment in them. So the crowd reaction almost wasn't even necessary for me to really like the match itself. Especially Maya Suzu, where there was crowd reaction, but very minimum, because obviously they weren't allowed, especially at that point. Everything was just coming back. I think my investment is what kept me into that match.
Well, that was our top 10 matches of the year. I hope you guys all enjoyed our breakdowns and our explanations. Parker, it was fantastic having you on for another episode. We've gone 2 hours here with you alone, so I expect this podcast to be at least 3 hours when it's all said and done. It's good having you.
It was great to be here. Just to plug myself quickly, as always, you can
Absolutely.
read my F4W online live coverage of AEW Dynamite every single week. That's obviously on Wednesday nights, and then right after the show, I always have a column on Fight Game Media where I kind of review the show and talk about what I liked and didn't like. So you can check those out and follow me on Twitter at Parker J. Klein. I tweet about wrestling and wrestling only, except for when I tweet about pre-ordering Hitman, and that's about it.
I don't blame you at all for pre-ordering Hitman. I want my PS5, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist at this point in time. All right, Kay, your final thoughts, and then we can
My final thoughts.
head on out.
I think 2020 was probably the best year of wrestling that I'd watched since I started watching wrestling after WWE. I think despite all of the, well, because most of my years were WWE except for 2018 onwards, I think the fact that so much good things, and again, storytelling and crowning of new champions and new stars being made, so much of that happened last year. You would think in a year with pandemics, you'd want to play it safe and not do that. I think the fact that companies like Ice Ribbon and Dragon Gate were like, nah, screw those rules, we're just going to do it anyways, was ballsy and also a great thing for me. Makes me excited going through 2021 now.
And with that, see you next time.
See ya.